Oh, yeah, look, there it is. We're back at it. It's your boy BC, the proprietor of this here BCX, the Brian Campbell Experience. This is my co-host, Reginald Jackson Campbell. Whoa, what got you spooked, dude? Okay. Guess what? You'll be back. I know it. All right. I know it. Hey, how are you? This is Campbell's Rambles. Welcome back in. This is what we do here every Wednesday, 4 p.m. on the Eastern time. 2+ hours of me talking in circles and answering your questions. Thank you so much for joining me today. Donks will assemble. Listen to Tacoma Aroma. That guy smells great, right? Yeah, Reggie is in the house. Shout out to Dave Sandine. Shout out to everybody who's, taken akin to this small circle of good vibes, right? This is our corner bar. So drop right in. I mean, it's 4 o'clock Eastern, too early. I don't know. It's up to you. Like, what row you sitting in right now? That's what I want to know. But we're going to do this thing, okay? We're going to talk combat sports, 70s vinyl, 90s NBA, really, whatever you got on your mind. You want to talk Fortnite? We'll talk some damn Fortnite. My name, as mentioned, is Brian Campbell. I ramble for a living. In fact, darling, I was born a rambling man. Yeah, yeah, right. Trying to make a living and doing the best that I can. You got dry palms. I want to recommend some MK Jerkins to you, but all right, that's a tired and dead old joke. Shout out to Tim down there in New Zealand, brother, a Kiwi fella. Appreciate you joining me from across the globe. Thank you so very much. Big Bad Baines is in the house. Look at this party. All right, I'll be your bartender. There is no minimum, okay? Just take care of yourselves. All right, Russell. Yeah. Shout out to Russell. That guy knows where Big Chicken is down there in Georgia. That guy, that's Russell, by the way, from Georgia. Great dude. He's the dude that got married by Elvis, wearing the MK gear on the way there to Sin City. So shout out to the great people we are building in this extended morning combat community, which includes the BCX channel, the Luke Thomas YouTube channel. Hey, how about Luke Nocita's main card minute? Yes, we have an extended family here building, and thank you for taking part in it. Don't forget that Morning Combat is back with an absolute bang Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time whoa, Gage Varda sliding in here. Cheapy back in the day. Shout out. Do you know that was a breakthrough moment in this guy's career right here? This guy right here, BC. Shout out to Stat Guy Greg, Peter Rosenberg, David Shoemaker, who I took over from back in that fantastic show. Lazy Bed coming in here from Cleveland. Wow, it is pretty gross there. There's dirtbag vibes. I was there for a Jake Paul fight. Hashtag never forget. A reminder, as I started already, that Friday at 11 a.m. is M to the K as we set the stage for UFC Tampa. And oh, by the way, Colby Covington went scorched earth on everybody today. Luke Thomas is lighting up my text message telling me all about it. This guy was taking down Diddy, LeBron, John Jones, and many more people. Wow, people from around the globe here as Fuzzy Dunlop is representing my my Scottish last name. Appreciate you. Updates this week to the old BCX channel. I wouldn't say it's hopping, but we got a few things out there. You can catch my top 5 best yacht rock albums, influenced, by the way, by a question from you guys a few weeks ago, as I take you deep inside the yacht rock genre. I finally finished that fan-friggin-tastic documentary on the Max app. If you have not watched it, if you like a little bit of that yachty sound, if you think it's cringe but wondering what the hullabaloo is about, check that out. They make yacht rock look about as cool as possible. So check that out right there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think you're now a lord and a laird of Fuzzy Dunlop's backyard. There you go, right there. Hopefully you also did not get one of those predatory loans. Look, for the record, I wasn't a fan of that. All right, but we got through it. We are here today. Also on the channel this week, tomorrow, Thursday, don't miss another episode of Inside the Box with BC and Rafe Bugs. We're going to record that tomorrow. We're going to look back. We're going to look forward. We're going to look all around. We might even reach. We probably won't reach around at all. That's pretty ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Flat Earth, you're gonna have to pay for Flat Earth questions. All right, let me tell you that. Speaking of payments, the super chat is open. We'll get to that in about a half hour's time. We'll get to your questions. If you want to sprinkle a little cheddar on there, will it get your question answered quicker? I mean, probably. It's a capitalist society, but shout out to everybody here under any price tag. It's your local corner bar. Thank you to Mikey for always having my back. Much appreciated. And I hope everybody's doing well. Look, it's December. but it's been oddly warm. We're finally getting some rain here in the Northeast. It is what it is, but we are closing in ever so slightly if you celebrate to the Christmas holiday. So shout out to the Hanukkahs, the Kwanzas, shout out to everybody. All right, if you're going to celebrate, shout out, celebrate safely, have yourselves a great time. I am finally out of the fog of a very long December last month in November, but happy to be fired up and ready. Went to the gym yesterday, getting back on track. Okay, it's time. It's time for BC to get back in business, in the pilot chair of my own life. All right, I want to star in a movie of my own life. That's what I'm doing right now. Isn't Joe Rogan who said that? I'm going to be the action hero in my own life movie. All right. So we're going to attack. We're going to attack forward. Okay. We're going to go after our dreams. Don't listen to Luke Thomas when he tells you not to follow your dreams. I get what he's trying to say, right? I get it, but boy, does that come off as depressive. Okay. Follow your dreams aggressively, lustfully, and relentlessly. And sometimes you'll find out that dream wasn't for you, but what you will find in the process is, guess what? Yourself. You'll find out who you are and what you're made of and what you're supposed to be doing in this life and contributing to this world. So head up, full eyes, can't lose, something Texas Forever Street. You guys know the direction I'm certainly trying to go right there. I'm already rambling in a circle, but yeah, it's Wednesday. It's 4 p.m. Eastern. So this is what we do. Let me hit off with the first topic. I thought it'd be a bigger story today because it kind of was a big story yesterday, but how about Ilia Topuria, as Conor McGregor pronounces it, or Topuria? Maybe your 2024 fighter of the year in MMA, or probably at worst second. That's going to be a fun debate this month to be had by every single establishment and podcast and user of social media. But is this a real thing that's happening? Is Ilia Topuria really teasing in whatever interview that was that he gave the idea that he could be pulling a Conor already, although actually he's far advanced in Conor in the fact that he's actually defended one of his world titles. But I mean, he could go quickly through the night of winning that featherweight championship and not soon after going up to the 155, where the best damn fighter on this planet resides, Islam Makhachev. Yes, we know Islam's got that really good rematch coming up with well, Reggie, take it easy, dude. Take it easy. With Arman Sarukian, UFC 311, January 18th. But if he gets through that, I know people don't want any more Islam fighting blown up featherweights. But if this featherweight decides to blow up for good and go up there, good Lord, will it get fun and exciting. I saw some people on the old Twitter try to throw out there, hey, maybe an introductory fight for Ilia could be Dustin Poirier's exit fight. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't hate that. Would that make the most sense? Probably not, though, but certainly would not hate that. I think if he does move up, it probably walks directly into a title shot, given the incredible carnage he has produced this year, taking himself not overnight, but really from, another promising guy in the UFC to one of its pound for pound best, maybe its fighter of the year, and the guy that not only is providing the fuel for Luke Thomas's bone air, but really inflating the balloon for a lot of us on where he might go. How would he compete? How would it look at 155? That would be the challenge to see. He's certainly got all the aspects you would want of a featherweight moving up to lightweight, from the explosive power to the IQ to the wrestling base and all that comes with that. But whether you want it now in Islam's march or not, Ilia versus Islam, if that's the plans the UFC would be focusing on by this rumor, that's about as big of a fight you can make. I mean, is that on the short list of UFC fights that I would considering giving an organ to seeing right now? I mean, we're talking about, John versus Tom, we're talking about those type of fights. How about the 1 and 2 on my current CBS Sports top 10 pound for pound list, which is Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria? Kind of crazy that Alex Pereira can have the year that he did, or the 175-day span that he did with those 3 title defenses by knockout, and can somehow be currently number 2 on my fighter of the year ballot and number 3 in my pound for pound mix. It's just what it is. Notice John Jones not in that top 3. So take that, Uncle Dana. But look, this is very interesting. Very interesting. It also leaves behind a little bit of mess over there at 145 that Ilia started by knocking out all of our pound for pound great heroes one after another. Would they do an interim a vacant title bout in that case between Volkanovski and Diego Lopez wouldn't be the worst case scenario. Wouldn't be but it would be interesting to see a guy who just seemed to have taken over this division and maybe by proxy the sport and is now already to continue moving forward and moving up. If he does get a shot at the belt in Islam, I would want it to only come under the basis of, yes, I'm officially full-time moving up, vacating that title, and seeing what I can do at the new division. I mean, it's certainly not a smart idea if you're in the midst of your physical prime, and I don't know how tough that weight cut is, but I can't imagine it being easy for him to begin to give yourself that cushion if you feel like you're inevitably going to be ending up at 155 anyway, and you already knocked out the two, most legendary fighters in the division back to back. It's not that there's a void of potential fun options for him, but if you can go up there and potentially fight the best fighter in the sport, and yes, that is Islam, then it's big business. That's big bolas. Bolas? Pelotas? Those huevos. The big huevos is really where I'm trying to go with that. So, Ilia, brother, do it, bro. Do it. I mean, he has forced even me, even in the shadows of Luke Damas's enlarged member in the direction of Topuria, I can still say that this year has forced me to, mouth agape and be like, wow, this guy really is everything they say he is. And now he's like F Messi too. I don't understand the soccer politics enough to even care about what that means, but it was humorous just the same to see that. There we go. There's your first topic of conversation. I'm interested to see what LT has to say about that on Friday's MK or maybe on Thursday's Luke Thomas live chat, if you populate that. But continue to support, as I mentioned, the other members of this extended family. As you know, it wasn't the 2024 we wanted, right, for MK, but will it be the 2025 we need, that you need? Wait and see, right? Wait and friggin' see. All right, let's get fired up, okay? My second topic I wanted to hit on there is let's talk a little bit of Turkey. All right, Thanksgiving behind us. Alalshikh in front of us in a big way. First of all, how's that guy 43 years old? I just assumed his mannerisms, his style, his mature ways, that guy was considerably older than my 46-year-old washed dad arse. But I got 3 years on Uncle Turkey right there. So there you go with that. Turkey's making really big moves in a really short period of time. We still don't know exactly what 2025 looks like in boxing, but a lot of the questions that we have, in a lot of ways, Turkey's the answer, whether we want that to be true or not. Like, I even in this past week have, for all the stuff in the last 14 months since Riyadh season kicked off, since Turkey and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia began to generously / aggressively pour cashola into this sport in the name of Riyadh season, in the name of, call it what you want, sports washing, all that stuff is true. That's the handshake deal we've got with them. Okay, we'll take your politics, you give us the best fights available. The first 14 months were more about big fights and big cards, and when it was the big fights we didn't think could happen or happen in a timely manner under the right circumstances, like Better BF Bivol, only it does happen. It's an instant classic, and we're getting another one right around the corner. Same thing, obviously, with Tyson Fury and Usyk. I mean, this fight, which we are just a little bit over a week away, right? December 21st here in the States, on that Saturday in Riyadh when Usyk and Fury meet for the second time. I mean, it's so historic and massive. And the fact that they are going to get the money they are going to get, that Usyk can earn $114 million in this rematch, and what Fury can make something like 90. I'd rather Turkey be here for those guys to make that money, for us to be able to watch this fight on such an elevated platform for seemingly smaller pay-per-view prices as this Turkey experience continues. Will the extended Turkey experience be perfect? No, not at all. Will it last a long time? It's hard to say, but the more things that I'm reading, hearing, smelling out in terms of their intentions, their plans, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. And like I mentioned, there's not going to be a question that we have about the structure and organization of this great sport in 2025, including TV deals for promoters and, who's going to be on what side of the line and all that, without Turkey's input. We're at that point. So to see him this week at the WBC conference in Hamburg, Germany, and look, these sanctioning body conferences are a lot of this. We already know that. It's a lot of this. WBC gave Turkey the Man of the Year award. And I'm not here to dispute that, but it's like, you know, Riyadh Citizen sponsors all of these promoters and alphabet bodies. So when they give him this grand award, it's a lot of, you know, we're all patting each other on the different places and whatever. It is what it is. But then you hear the stuff he's talking about. Not only does Turkey get on the mic and, you know, drop an old doogie on the thoughts of Tyson Paul and, you know, 14-ounce gloves. This is not boxing. Beating up your grandpa. This is not boxing. Maybe that beating up your grandpa line, it wasn't perfect for Turkey, that he followed it up less than a minute later by saying, oh, Vladimir, age 48, please do me a favor and come back and fight the winner of Usyk Fury or the winner of Dubois Parker. It's not that I'm fully against a Vlad comeback at 48 to try to best George Foreman's record as the oldest heavyweight champion. It just was interesting, you know, putting those sentences right after each other. But I like what Turkey had to say about just being like, look, this is about real boxing moving forward. That stuff, I'm not against it, Turkey said, but you got to call it what it is. It's entertainment. It's not boxing. It's not a real fight. Look, I'm not going to act when Turkey does all these things like he doesn't have ulterior motives. Again, this is not him being super generous with his own money. This is a calculated government plan. But I'd be lying if I tell you I don't often sit here once in a while or sit in the car and think about this sport as a whole or listen to somebody else's podcast and then stop and go, you know what? Some of these things that are happening right now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like I would have considered giving you this already permanently broken pinky finger from years of getting basketballs thrown at full speed and jamming it. You know that pain. You know that feeling, right? There's nothing like it. I would consider Ronnie Lotting that at times for my sport to have nice things. You can't have nice things in the sport of boxing without the other side of it. It is what it is. And there's going to be an other side of Turkey. And we've seen some of the other side that we're not always going to love. But he's trying to literally organize this dysfunctional, disorganizational sport, trying to consolidate it, trying to lower the prices for consumers while raising the prices for fighters. And again, if any of you are, you know, more of the Luke Thomas mold, that's like, that's all great, but how can we celebrate this too much because of that other stuff? The other stuff is there. I'm not acting like it's not there. It's there. It fits neatly in this giant box. It's there. It's worth watching. It's whatever you want to call it. But the continued things that Turkey is saying about the sport and what he wants to do and how he wants to make it great again, and that's his catchphrase now, not stealing necessarily. Well, I guess it is a play on words from the old red MAGA hat. But when he talks about him purchasing Ring Magazine, and I know a lot of people have made fun on X and Twitter of saying like, you know, yeah, Turkey says it's going to be separate from Riyadh season. There's going to be no involvement. How could it be if he owns, like, I understand that. I understand that. Believe me. But the point is he wants to build back up this once great and historic magazine, completely upgrade what's been going on digitally for years with a separate staff, make it about the fighters, the glory of boxing and the elevation of boxing. And also at the same time, constantly every time he speaks, talking about restoring the order and the glory to the sport. Even with the price tag that comes with that, I still had to kind of stop this week and be like, damn, this is really happening. So from this WBC, the big news at this gala was his announcement that he's partnering with Mauricio Suleiman Jr. of the WBC. And they're going to launch something that was Mauricio's late father, who former president of WBC's longtime dream, the World Cup of Boxing. And what it will be in this case is a very aggressive and ambitious 4-division prospect tournament. 32 fighters per tournament in the 4 divisions, which are like super featherweight, welterweight, heavyweight, and lightweight. I know that wasn't right, but somewhere around there with those 4 divisions. The rules will be it's fighters 26 years old and under, 10 to 12 pro fights and under. And they're doing 8-round bouts, 10 rounds in the finals, and the quarterfinals, semis, and finals will take place in Riyadh. That's interesting. It's not, you know, call your friends and say boxing is back interesting, but it's an aggressive move to begin to build a real infrastructure in the sport. Now, do I think we're very close to the point where you're either with Turki or you're against him in boxing? Yeah, I think we're already there, if not really close. I'm very interested to see what Top Rank does with the rumors that their ESPN deal will come to a close in August. Same thing with PBC. Will they be part-timers in a Turkey world, sending some fighters for big events, or is Turkey pretty soon going to be the de facto commissioner of boxing? In a way, in a sense. And when I say in a way, I don't mean the monster Naiua. I mean, is that going to be the case? It already seems like he's building the structure in front of us, a very expansive prospect tournament to begin to get the tomorrow's fighters of Riyadh season. And I think in theory, since we don't know the reveal yet of what Dana White and UFC's involvement in all of this will Dana be one part of it? Will he be HBO? Will he be the highest platform for the highest? Again, we don't know. Is the home of boxing going to be DAZN through Turkey, ESPN, or a combination of all? It's things we don't know yet still. But the idea of this WBC prospect tournament could, it's a much more aggressive Dana White's Contender Series idea, right? And it's the idea of taking the younger fighters who at that point in their careers typically are fighting nobodies, climbing the ladder, getting experience, kind of putting them in there now to want the smoke early, to want to get that attention and notoriety early, and to, in some ways, to build their names through this tournament and be already ready to launch to be the faces of Riyadh season moving forward. And when I say Riyadh season, increasingly, I'm saying boxing. Whether or not you want the center of the boxing world to be Riyadh, it kind of already is. And if we know that this Dana White announcement, rumored to be January or February, whatever it is, you mix that with this new prospect tournament, you mix that with the idea that basically every major promoter is dealing already with Turkey at the moment, even PBC sending Carlos Adames to that loaded February 22nd card, previously having sent a couple fighters over for that US card August 3rd. Like, we're here. It's inevitable. So now it's time to sit back and see, what is this actually going to look like? How deep is it going to go? What is Turkey going to do with the sanctioning bodies? By sponsoring them, he certainly seems to have built control over them. Is it to push them away and bring in a Ring Magazine title and have one champion for division? Is WBC going to be the one of the four sanctioning bodies that gets, pushed forward preferential treatment? Again, I don't know what that looks like. But it looks to me like the thing, quote unquote, the thing is finally happening. What is the thing? The thing is something I just made up in my head now, but what it really represents is whenever us as, old school boxing fans, journalists, super fans, hardcores, optimists, cynics, whichever category you want to fit in, for years how many times in my 11 years at ESPN did I write something to the degree of, this sport's so great 3 or 4 times a year, but if only we had one central body to control it, one organizing force. Or when you have those conversations, knowing the greed and disorganization in boxing, you typically get to the end point, which is one person with a real lot of money. How much money would that take for them to finally bring structure to what we do in this sport? And again, it doesn't have to be where some central body owns every promoter and network. And maybe that's the model, but it doesn't have to be that. It could just be the idea like you're all fighting for the same title, one per division, or what have you. This is what it's actually looking like. And I just never thought we would get here. And when Al Heyman pooled his resources together in 2015 to launch the PBC, and, if you didn't live through that in 2015, it was as aggressive and grand a move as a lot of us had seen in boxing in a long time. We did talk at that time. Is he the one? Is this what we've been waiting for? Is someone actually going to pool it all together and have, not many titles, but one title and one center and one structure and one league almost, whether officially or unofficially? And then that shifted for years to, what if it was Dana? What if he came in here with just stupid money and aggressiveness and just went for it? Well, that person wasn't Al or Dana. It's Turkey, and it might be Turkey and Dana by proxy, but it's actually happening. So, the Turkey experience hasn't been perfect, but Has the good outweighed the bad aggressively? Up to this point, I'm here to say yes. Yeah, do I love that the fight cards are on the other side of the world? No, but they're also on earlier in the day. Do I love that they're 9 to 10 hours? No, we got to tighten that up. But we're starting to get aggressively spoiled. It for years to be a fan that isn't expensing pay-per-views like me or stealing them like seemingly everybody else is. If you're a true and honest fan, I mean, it's crazy how much money you have had to spend through the last 20 years trying to actually be a fan. You got to juggle multiple cable subscriptions. You're paying out the backside for pay-per-views. Most of them probably shouldn't even be pay-per-views. And here's Daddy Warbucks. Here's Santa Claus, Turkey Claus coming in. He's like, I'm going to make the fight cards deeper and better and cheaper at the same time. Again, not dismissing the other side of that equation. There's cause and effect. There's, yeah. But it's like, what was our reality in boxing before this anyway? It was like a couple times a year, yay, and the rest of the time, no, right? And now we're at the point we already, what I'm saying is we were pre-Turkey already dealing with enough constant BS that was justified almost as, well, that's the sport. That's what it takes for this sport to be as Wild West as it is. And tell me you don't like a little craziness in your box. You know what I mean? Yeah, you had to trick yourself into believing that following a stupidly crazy and unorganized sport is the healthiest way to run this thing. I never thought we'd be here. And again, I don't know if it lasts. I don't know if a year from now, the Saudi government says, okay, Turk, that's enough, or that's enough capital put into that sport. Maybe it breaks through and we get a window of 2, 5, 10 years of organization and recognized champions per division and stars being treated like, to some degree, royalty and overpaid and promoted. And again, as I always say, do I need crazy expensive multi-million-dollar movie trailers for these fights? No. Is it friggin' awesome though? Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool, right? I mean, that's where we're at. So I bring this up as a topic today, and I waste your time talking in circles because it's here. It's here more aggressively than I even realized. I don't know, just hearing Turkey speak at this, hearing some of the rumors I'm hearing about what the next few months could look like it's happening, it's here, and that man is in control. And that's the truth. But what's 2025 going to look like now that he's had 14 months to to survey the land, decide who he's with and who he's against, right? Set things up. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very, very interesting. Ring Magazine back to prominence. Dana White involved in the UFC. It's going to be very, 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 very interesting. I want a front row seat, whether I'm covering it, whether I'm calling it, or whether I'm watching it in the front row, or maybe the eighth row. Actually, let me get that eighth row seat, Uncle Turk. Okay, maybe you should be calling me Uncle because I'm older. I'm older than Luke Thomas too. Who would have guessed that? All right, but that's the truth right there. So those are my two topics, and I also wanted to mention the heck's going on with this GFL that Ariel and Kevin Lee and Anthony Pettis put out there today. I mean, I'm not against people getting paid and people getting opportunities, but the damn GFL was it kind of looks like the PFL only with washed fighters. What are we doing here, folks? We're going to launch an international global team concept that's failing in PFL's smart cage right now, like 50-50 split on revenue. How are you going to make that revenue with these names? Not easy in this game, not easy in a monopoly or monsopsony to make some noise, but good Lord, could everybody who's not the UFC just all get in a room and partner up or something, or at least the smartest 2 or 3 of you? Can somebody make a run at real competition here? I don't think that is it, but shout out to the GFL for taking their swing just the same. Wow. Long Island Luke of the main card minute sliding in. He's been listening to Steely Dan's Asia today. He's not going to lie, and I don't think any of you are either. I mean, is that the best album in yacht rock history? You're damn right it is. Okay. You're absolutely damn right it is. That's my intro for you. Of course, we've got Joaquin Buckley versus Colby Covington this Saturday, the UFC Tampa main event, the welterweight tilt. We're going to get into it with previews and picks on MK on Friday. I was on Mike Owens Media's podcast today. We broke that fight down. I forgot how intrigued I actually am in that fight. Is this the last ride for good old MAGA Colby at the highest level? We'll find out. We'll get into that. But for now, at 4:30 on the East Coast here on a Wednesday afternoon. Reggie, are you here? Are you going? What's the deal? You're out. Okay. Okay. Come back though. Alan W is going to be asking for you soon. Now it's time to turn it over. Oh, real quick, real quick. I hadn't been painting for like 2 months, 3 months. I just didn't have the inspiration, and every time I went to the damn easel, BC making it look easel, it just wasn't going anywhere. I was regressing very aggressively. And, it is not uncommon for an untrained, abstract, ridiculous painter like me to just paint something and hate it and paint all over it again. That's the joy of untrained learning. But I've come to the end of this one. All right. I mean, you can rip it. You can rip it all you want. I'll show it to Luke on Friday. But this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at in my painting career. All right. That's all you're going to get from me at this point. It's probably the best. It's probably the best you're going to get from me at this point. But had a good time doing it. I always paint to Joni Mitchell for some reason. Sometimes Steely Dan, but mostly just Joni Mitchell. She's an incredible artist in every category, by the way. If you'd ever taken the taste test on going deep on Joni's catalog, acquired taste for sure. But yeah, that's probably another topic for another day. Let's get into the meat right here. The super chat is open. The floor is open. Come as you are, as you were, as you want me to be. Yeah, all right. At the end of the day, just come. All right. It didn't go where I wanted it to go, but it went. Here we go. Let's kick it off with Fuzzy Dunlop. Wanderlei Silva versus Frank Mir. Anyone? Hello, Tumbleweed. Yes. Like, I'm happy for those guys. Gegard Mousasi, Greg Hardy. I mean, for the Anthony Pettis's, the Tyron Woodleys, the guys that feel like they still have a little bit of juice and an interest in this sport to still compete. And, a couple of them already did the boxing crossover and tried that. Not against any of these guys who are, washy, but still have a little left in the tank to compete against each other, make a little bit of money, have a little bit of glory again. I just felt underwhelmed by the concept, presentation, and launch of this. If you just want to call it, old OFL, old guys fight league, and just put on like 2-minute rounds and with like, Vitor Belfort and company, and we all recapture our glory of 2013 all over again, I'm here for that. But international teams, the team concept, I mean, it's just the IF to the PFL, H to the is. Oh, probably shouldn't make those jokes right now, right? I mean, what the hell's going on in the rap industry? We knew there were secrets behind these curtains, Fuzzy Dunlop. We knew there were a lot of them. They're coming out. They're coming out aggressively right now. Okay. Wow. Damn. I don't know if I want to see Frank Mir in there anymore, but there we go. There we go. Thanks for playing. Let's keep it going right here. All right, Dave Sandine, always a real one. Always a real one. I used Moneyline to buy Kami Koto knife set. No regrets. Still paying on both. That's a hilarious joke of the history of wrong turn MK sponsorship deals that were forced upon us by Malka. Thank you. End of discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Dave. Well played there. Well played. Here we go. Alan W's in the house. If you don't know Alan W, you better recognize this guy. This guy is a supporter of great people. Thank you for the support, Alan W. Excited for Fortnite's first-person ballistic mode. I got to ask you, what is this first-person ballistic mode? Because maybe I know what it is. Hold on. Let me say it to you, okay? Let me say it to you. Fortnite just launched the well-promoted OG series, the season 1 sort of relaunch side game, not ranked. There's no ranking involved, but you can play build or zero build. And then there's something else. When I knocked on the kid's door today after school, and they were rocking something on Fortnite, like, Dad, this is the new 5v5 sort of team format. Is that what you're talking about on the? Yeah, that must be what you're talking about with the first person ballistic mode. Alan, I don't know the full parameters of the 5 versus 5 setup there, outside of the fact that you have to eliminate the other 5 on the other team, or capture their flag, or disengage their bomb, or whatever it is. I haven't tried it yet. I'm intrigued. But here's why I'm really intrigued, because I wasn't intrigued at all about OG Fortnite until I finally, like 4 days late, gave it a try one night. And then suddenly I'm up to like 1 a.m. playing it around the horn. The OG is fantastic, Alan. Can I call you Al? Big Al. It's everything I want, not just because I'm an old washed dad. I may be an old washed dad who prefers this game to be as pure, simple, and basic and non-magical, Marvel, DC, satanic, ridiculous. Like, I want a man, a gun, and maybe a grenade, right? So it appeals to me, but it's not out of a dislike of competition. I play ranked on both build and zero build, and I'm pretty high ranked for a dad, my kids tell me, in both sides. But there ain't nothing pure than this OG season. No cars, simple guns, scopes are back, grenades are back, basic structures to fight around and climb upon. And maybe I've been seduced by the dark side, Alan, of the fact that there's no ranking system in here. So when I'm playing OG, I'm playing against a lot of donks and I'm taking people out. I mean, I just had a victory this morning, a victory royale, Alan, with 13 eliminations. Okay. It's a big deal for me. Okay. It's a big deal for me today. Alan, you're saying it came out today, bro. Okay. So that's why I saw my kids playing it. I'm going to try it out, Alan, and I'm going to report back to you. But let me finish by telling you, the OG is here to stay. The OG. I can't stop playing that stuff. I really can't. I really can't stop playing it. And it's bringing me back even deeper to the purity of what these type of games can be if you're just about that gun and grenade life. And I'm not about building I'm not about magic. I'm not about building things. I'm about finding you on that map and getting you out of there. Okay, Al? That's what I'm about. So that's playing right in my absolute feel hole right there. All right. I saw something drop in here in real time that I wanted to address. Oh, Fancy Mortimer's got jokes. Yeah. Well, they certainly aren't regulated, the ones I'm on, but there you go. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. All right, let's get back at it. Let's bang. So, Alan, thank you so much for your time right there. Big bad Baines, Harold Baines here, number 3, retired by the Chicago White Sox. Don't forget that trade in '90 to the Oakland A's. They loaded up for that postseason run, right? Willie McGee. They brought back, they brought back a few people there. I couldn't get past those Reds, though. What a disappointing World Series I thought that was in '90. I mean, that Reds team had no business sweeping the A's. Nobody cares, though, BC. Who you got with this Colby versus Buckley? So, in theory, right? In theory, I get the itch from these IFB earpieces. Sorry, I'm not trying to, earwax your screen right there, but there we go. In theory, Baines, I like the contrast here. Contrast in styles, contrast in experience and personality and all of that. And I'm still intrigued by that prospect. Can Colby's spamming cardio wrestling style be the perfect kryptonite to humble a streaking Numanza? But at the same time, I'm not leaning to the other side. Is this the last time we're going to see Colby at this level and deal with some of his BS? Now, I say that BS, yet today he kind of delivered some bangers. Today at UFC Media Day, when he came out guns blazing at the world, I mean, he was throwing some shots. It was actually kind of humorous, if not refreshing, to see, the stoner, the equivalent of the stoner shop class, star in the corner giving out snarky comments to the cool kids as they walk in. But inside the cage is what you care about, Baines. And I think this is really all set up for Buckley to make a big breakthrough moment here. I mean, Colby's not easy to stop. Not easy to stop. But if Buckley in this 5-round fight can deal with the expected strengths that Colby brings in and the things, the tricks that he has to make Buckley ineffective and break through and hurt him and finish him, he was already a dark horse title challenger on the perfect day, meaning if the seas opened for him and the other guys weren't available and they kind of just, kind of like, to be fair, kind of like with Khalil Roundtree, like wasn't due, but Poatan had cleaned out most of the division and they wanted a fun opponent for him to pay back Poatan for being a great company man, to pay back Salt Lake City and give him a banger since they're probably paying a lot in government contracts to bring those cards there. I'm thinking here, I'm feeling here that this is Buckley's chance in his moment to break through. Now, Buckley obviously was already on paper to be headlining this card in a way tougher matchup there against Ian Gary, which in a lot of ways was his do or die moment in his streak to real title contention. That was his, show us you're the real or get back in line and stop wasting our time moment. This is a little bit different. Now, it still could be that, especially if he succumbs to Colby's wrestling and suddenly we're like, oh my God, maybe Covington is having a, resurgence here after alternating wins and losses and really just being kind of a celebrity B-side in the title discussion the last few years. Now, it's like, is he really like the elite gatekeeper to test who's ready? I mean, it's kind of what you become when, at this point at his age in his career. So Buckley will still get that stern test to show us if he's the real. But Colby's style is built upon a lot of things that are angled toward youth. So I think he's going to I don't think we're going to see a lot of him after this. I think he's going to have sharp, stark, diminished returns inside the cage, where the best thing he'll be able to do is sort of manage the fight and manage to avoid getting stopped in a lot of these fights. I know he's juggled wins and losses. It's not like he's at a point where he's a complete facsimile of himself, but I think he's going to get there quick. And I think this could align perfectly with Buckley's intentions and his explosiveness to come in here and have a big moment. And if he did, without having to go directly through Gary right now, he may take a leap toward that front of the line in a very aggressive way. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we're all expecting Bilal versus versus Shavkat next. But if Shavkat is not fully ready, what do you do next? Who's the most obvious next? Is it Leon or is it Usman? I know some people wanted Leon versus Gary at UFC London, and Gary, shot that down. But you're not going to give the title shot to Gary. I know the UFC continuously wants to reward Usman for the years he was on top when he was pound for pound king, and a good company man for them. But I think he's past it in terms of welterweight title contention. I think he's fully in celebrity fight mode. Still had enough of himself to look more than human against Hamzat, and I give him that respect on short notice, division up. But I don't want to see him back in a welterweight title fight. So Buckley may have a perfect opening here to have an opportunity to make some really big noise with a really big statement. Is this the matchup that can get him that? I'm starting to talk myself into believing it will inevitably end up being that, where you won't say coming in, because people don't go out here dusting off Colby, but it catches up with you. And I felt like the way in which Colby accepted this fight, as if in some ways, now look, it's still toward the top of the division. If he goes out there and gets a good win, in theory, he still kept himself close enough to the top. But I was very shocked that he accepted this. To me, it was almost as if Colby's saying, this probably is where my brand is at and the best I can get. A fight night card in Tampa to close the year. And again, no shortage of stakes, but I think this fight is increasingly about Buckley, and it's going to be up to him, even through some of the negative aspects of Colby's game that can mute his explosiveness, to still find a way. And I'm fired up for it. I'm ready for it. I like this main event a lot. Okay. I like it a real lot. Thank you very much. Fuzzy Dunlop coming right back at it. Okay. Seatbelts. Yeah. What's your thought? I mean, dude, I tell you, I like Bryce Mitchell, and I kind of always have, but he takes turns off the highway aggressively, and you have to kind of decide, am I coming with him? Am I a spectator in this ridiculous side rant? Do I kind of believe the roots of it and don't want anybody to know? Well, I think there's some conspiracies him and I maybe could align on. And by the way, I don't hate when he goes out there and represents the Bible, even though he does it in the most sort of like gung-ho, comedic way, even though it's not a comedy to him. But the seatbelt ran and some of the other things, the dude kind of wins me over with his brash, like he's so confident and hopeful about the stuff he puts out there, like if we just listen and take the challenge, we'll believe too about the flat earth and the lack of seatbelts. But it is all rooted back in the same concept of the government won't tell me what to do. And look, there are parts of this country, and I'm sure Bryce is from a part like that in Arkansas. We see the footage of him living and training in a trailer, chewing on coffee grinds. Like, this guy's like backwoods survival, like, OG, not different than, the wild outback of Texas, where it was still legal to drink and drive up to a certain point recently. They don't want government regulation on anything. So I understand that, but no, I believe seatbelts can save a life statistically and have done a great job up to this point. While not a perfect mechanism. That is pretty hilarious though, Fuzzy. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's keep hitting it. And let's keep hitting it hard. Brantendo is here, 64 in the house. All right. This guy's a MK guy. All right. Didn't she used to work with Bisping? Love this guy, Brantendo. What's Colby's play leading into the Buck fight? Now that every fighter is a Trump supporter, maybe he comes out in support of insurance companies. That's a great and hilarious joke, and well said, Brantendo. And thank you, by the way, for supporting this here chat, this here man, this here channel, these here idealisms. Okay, thank you for supporting that. I always wondered if Trump had lost. I said that ahead of the 2020 election. If Trump loses, what is he going to do? Change the gimmick? I thought at that point he should have switched completely and and gone full Biden at that point, but it would have made it all comical. But your point is well taken. When Colby first started this shtick, it wasn't as if like people were booing him out of the arena, but I don't think it was on the same levels of like, yeah, representation, the red hat representation. Now it's sort of the whole crowd at UFC. It's the culture. It's the whatever. His shtick doesn't stand out. It just sort of fits in. If he's just going to lean the rest of the way on being what he was today, being that snarky, counter-punching trash talker, there is a lane where he can become endearing to a certain degree again. And I'm saying that about one of the most, purposefully trash personalities that we've seen. Like he's, going out of his way to play a character and stick the finger in the wound and keep spinning it, in terms of just annoying you. I don't necessarily mean politically, but that also could be in the equation depending on where you lean. But what if he just focused on not the over-the-top unnecessary dick style that he's done, like when he attacked Ian Gary at that press conference and really went a little bit too far with the wife comments, and it was like, you're not even fighting that dude, right? So but if he just tries to sort of tell the harsh truth in response to his opponents, it could be a lane where we look at him like we look at Sean Strickland, the rare times that he puts away some of the ridiculous rhetoric and focuses it more on anti-materialism, and this title means nothing, and hey, you, Izzy, why do you do that to your dog? You know what I'm saying? So maybe there is a lane, but yeah, in support of insurance companies is very interesting. Or maybe he should just go full in support of that Mangione weird dude. Maybe that's the lane he should play on there. All right. It's about as political as we'll probably get today, because politics is just the worst, isn't it? I mean, isn't it just the worst? It really is. Like all sides, no sides. How about we go no sides moving forward? Thank you very much. All right, let's hear from Galen. Galen Verbakel. Look at this guy, Galen Verbakel, joining me. From what part of the globe, brother? He says, BC, I know you are more of a rock kind of guy. Yeah, I'm solid, as a rock. But what are your top 3 favorite rap hip hop artists of all time? Galen, great question. If you're looking for the history of my rap hip hop understanding, from about like 1990, which was 6th grade, through about 93, I would say I leaned first with hip hop as my favorite genre. But I'm going to be honest with you, it was very tied to that commercial white kid suburban UMTV raps era of it. That doesn't mean all I bought was Third Base and Vanilla Ice cassettes. I had both of those, but I mean, I got up and down, Eric and B, Rakim, Brand Nubian, Naughty by Nature, Public Enemy. Those are probably my 2 biggest artists right there, and A Tribe Called Quest, and then Dr. Dre's debut, no question. Actually, that was one of the first. That was the 2nd CD I ever bought. The first CD I ever bought was Public Enemy's Greatest Misses. So my 3 favorite hip hop rap artists of all time would probably be, if I'm really going to give it to you in 3, Tribe Called Quest number 1, without question. I gotta say, I don't think their sound has, of the next group, Public Enemy, all-time greats, Hall of Fame, like whatever you want to say, one killer album after another, groundbreaking, all of that. But I don't think Public Enemy's catalog has held up as well in the modern sound. I don't put it on as much. This is more of a nostalgic turn to the era. And then I went into grunge in the mid 90s, came back to hip hop in the late 90s when Jay-Z, DMX, Ja Rule, and others kind of came back into it, because that tied with the being early 20s, going to clubs that had dancing to these songs, and you had to kind of get on board. Luke Thomas sliding in here. All right. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. All right. So number 2, I would say Public Enemy, and number 3, I could easily say Naughty by Nature or a few others, but I got to put Tupac in there because that was probably the biggest part of my late 90s hip hop comeback, was getting back into everything I had missed from Tupac. What I mean by that is I was a massive Digital Underground fan in the early 90s. Ghetto Boys as well. I mean, I did the tour in the early 90s. I'm just trying to tell you, I came in through the lens of like Young MC and Tone Loc. Like those were my, those were my entry level stuff. So I knew who I was and what I was going after. But I had listened to Tupac coming up through Digital Underground and thought he was cool. So I bought his debut cassette when it came out and loved it in real time. I mean, Brenda did have a baby. It happened, right? But then I stopped for some reason. And so the late 90s, I basically caught up on his prime run, All Eyes on Me, the double album. I mean, he's the best. He's the best I've ever heard. My favorite, Tribe Called Quest, but Tupac would be the best. My favorite MC, though, just straight on those skills, if not Q-Tip, it would be Rakim, without question. But I've got holes in my game. I dabbled a little bit in Nas, Wu-Tang, and some of those other, or Biggie I was into, but I dabbled in some of those. So I'm not going to be able to speak, necessarily in a historic context to the level that would deserve this level of confidence and machismo, right? I really can't do that for you. But there are still, I'd say the albums that I go back to the most right now, the best album in hip hop history, in my opinion, is The Low End Theory by A Tribe Called Quest, with that legitimate, I mean, Ron Carter's playing bass on one of those songs, that legitimate jazz feel, and obviously the way Tip and Fife played off of each other. That one, A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing by Black Sheep, which is more of a ridiculous fun record, but is those guys, I mean, that, Drez absolutely brought it. I'm going to stand by that record as still holding up today. The Biggie Ready to Die. That's got to be the third. That's got to be the third I go back to. Probably the third best in my opinion. Yeah, that's what I got for today. All right, that's what I got. Thanks, Galen. All right, let's go over to Fancy Mortimer. You see this guy lurking around in the corner, right? Hands in his pockets all the time. Search history is an absolute disgust mess. Fancy, thank you for supporting this chat, by the way. He asks, if you were Knicks GM in 2024, what one move would you make? To tell Mangione to follow Jim Dolan around, right? Or is that really dark humor at this point and way too soon? Probably way too soon. Tell Dolan he's not a guitarist at all and he's lame as shit. I really haven't been following the Knicks saga this much. I know they got Towns, and I know they're coming off a resurgent season last year with Brunson and made the playoffs and made some waves, and Ariel was tweeting the shit out of it. But what would I do? Well, I'm really not going to give you a Knicks specific answer, because everything I want to say about what anyone should do is stop the bleeding in the NBA. I'm glad that people are finally speaking out more. It's not just curmudgeonly old me in this chat every week, and it's not just the old players who are, sick of the new players and the new era forgetting them. I'm glad that everybody's starting to wake up and be like, yeah, the game is a functional problem right now. The game now at the highest level that is the same game that's being taught to the youth is just broken. It's just, drive the lane and dish off for a three every single play. You know what I mean? Like there's no mid game, there's no anything, but that's not what you're here for, Fancy. But with the rule set the way it is, man, I really, I still watch the playoffs, still watch the finals. You hear my laments. Still love the highlights, still love a lot of these athletes. I mean, if I'm in the 8th row, I could just put on Jimmy Butler highlights for 20 or Kyrie Irving crossovers and really enjoy it. But in terms of the flow of the game, I hate the way the skill sets are built into the way the game is. I don't know what the answer is, but if you were the Knicks, now as the GM, I'd probably, what I would do? I'd probably get Jaylen Brown away from the Celtics and build everything around him and tell him, Jaylen, that, I was talking to my friend BC, who was a big Celtics fan, and for all the love that Tatum always gets, you are the real heart and soul of that team and the glue and the guy that the ball goes to in those real key moments and plays. That guy's spicy too, Jalen, which I like. I like when he sits down with Stephen A. and is like, yo, tell me which teammate sold me out. Like, I'm like, yeah, right. So that's the first thing I'd do. See, I was about backbone guys. And it's funny, I wasn't a Pistons fan. I was a Celtics fan, so I hated the Pistons. But like that whole team, that whole bad boy run, and even to be fair, the Larry Brown 04 and 05 finals teams built upon backbone defense and team chemistry. I love backbone type players. Yeah. I'm not big on front bones, just like mine, but that's about it. But there you go, Fancy. That's all I got for you. I'm a Celtics fan. Thank you very much. Okay, let's keep it going here. Donnie's here. Donnie Baseball. Music ramble of the day. How's your progress with the Doors discography going? So I had a Doors deep run, right? I think I was talking to you guys about it about 6 months ago. It coincided with the aftermath of my dad driving up his record collection from Florida and donating it to me and not just leaving it in his will, which was just a power move and a half since I grew up, reading the liner notes to those same ones endlessly. And oddly enough, even though growing up I had LA Woman and Morrison Hotel on CD, and I considered that the crux, the core of my Doors fandom. My dad suddenly's got, Strange Days, or is it People Are Strange? Whatever, Strange Days. And then also Waiting for the Sun. And Waiting for the Sun, as we've talked about, is that eclectic rainbow psychedelic album. And so the more that I get on the inside of the Doors, the more that I wanted more. And it's crazy that I could have been, because, the Doors for me were very much a gateway classic rock act to get me out of hip hop. Hendrix was the pull. Like, I know the couch cushion I was sitting on, the angle I was looking at, what time of day it was, what was on the TV when my dad said, hold on, I'm sick of hearing public, hip hop coming out of your room. Just sit down for 1 second. And he put Purple Haze. It was the opening track on Smash Hits, the mini greatest hits album that came out two couple albums in for Hendrix. And I'll never forget, that was a life-changing moment. I'll never forget what I felt, what I thought, that's like music could be that. Oh my God. And then that led me directly to the Doors. But I retroactively had labeled them as just that, a gateway drug into really great classic rock, rather than what they are, forerunners and probably the most palatable combination of psychedelic rock in a mainstream pop format that we've seen at that level. I mean, there is, I never thought of them, oddly enough, as a psychedelic rock band. Then you realize that's the magic of who they are. Obviously, they're a blues-based band, Krieger and the jazz influence of Manzarek and Densmore. I didn't give them the credit they deserved for instrumentation, for that rhythm section, that band, for everything they were, and especially Jim. I looked at Jim as more of the get arrested, expose yourself, say ridiculous things guy who, could sing a really sweet pop song in between a bunch of other, completely opposite, over the top, ridiculous avant-garde stuff. But now that I'm doing the deep dive, or I had done the deep dive, to really get into the genius of his dark poetic style, and, not just embracing songs like The End at a deeper level than I haven't before, where I wasn't dismissive of them, but to some degree, I'll clearly say I never understood them. Now I'm understanding where he's coming from, what he's trying to say. And it took purchasing, and I got it for like $2. That Doors Live album that came out in like 69. I had no idea how great that record was, and how that was a tour de force of the same reason why we often love great live albums. And I don't mean bootlegs, I mean ones that were released to the public, made in Japan by Deep Purple, right? That kind of stuff, is because we get to see the instrumentation go off script, go out into the freeform world and show me what you got, whether you're a jam band or you're just a rocker who can stretch it out. But we always think of that usually in terms of the guitar, or in jazz fusion in terms of the the saxophone or the trumpet or the bass, but to hear Jim's style have the room on that live record to go where it went, it blew me away. It took me to another level of appreciation for that band beyond, like I said, the entry level of it. So I didn't finish. I didn't go all the way, but I did go pretty deep considering I bought the Other Voices record, which was the first one after Jim's death, where the rest of the band sort of put together their tracks they'd been working on or whatever, and gave a run at it, tried it. It's certainly not up to the level of a Jim Morrison led one, but it's interesting. What I haven't purchased yet on vinyl and I want to is the American Prayer. And that's probably that's the final Doors released album that came many, in 1978, years after Jim died. But that was essentially the remaining poetry vocals, that Jim had recorded a cappella, like just straight up, they combined with music. And I think I'm ready for it. But top to bottom, in terms of the Morrison-led run, which is 6 albums plus the live album, there's not a bad turn here. There's really not. Strange Days is probably the worst of that. I mean, some might say the Soft Parade, but it's endearing to me. I like the weirdness of the Soft Parade. But the contrast between the sound of who they were in their debut album, which is, among the 10 best debut albums in rock history because they were fully formed in that debut album. We're here and we are making noise and we've got some diversity and it's aggressive. That just to see that sound, and then they went through the psychedelic era, and then they became the blues rockers that they were on the tail end. In basically a 4-year span, they did evolve a lot. I mean, so did to a degree, so did Hendrix and the Experience through 3 albums. There was a very deep evolution just the same. So, Donnie, I would like to get back in and really finish it off. Now, that would also include me buying that second record, which I see often at vinyl stores, of The Doors without Morrison, which has even more poorly reviewed. How much of that do I want? I don't know, but I can't believe how great this band was. And again, I don't want to say classic rock radio lied to me, because classic rock radio taught me how good this band is, where normally the other acts they lie to me about. But my own ignorance lied to me. The innovation in this band is exactly what makes them incredible. The chances they take, right? I want to do that, and I think we will one day. Mikey and I got to figure it out. But I wanted to take chances like that on this BCX experience. You know what I mean? I wanted the screen to just go black and white and shake out of nowhere, and suddenly there's an alien talking. You know what I mean? Let's get weird here on the BCX, all right? 3 drink and 4 Delta 8 minimum. There you go. That's the rules. Everybody knows them. All right, thank you very much. What else you got here? Oh, L&W come. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. See, that you got to come to a point, Alan, in understanding where I am. You can't control that bugger. You can't. Right now, he's doing this thing where our Christmas tree has like the fake snow on it, which is the thing now. And it's awesome, by the way. And he just eats. I mean, that dude just chows on it like it's, like it's a vertical China buffet, and he's just going for it. And he throws up constantly from that. But, you can't, he can't change his ways. That's all he knows, right? And he can't be tamed. He's an absolute a-hole, Al. But really, to be fair, the cutest, the best we got. I mean, he chose me. What do you want me to do, right? What do you want me to do? All right, let's keep it going here. Fancy's back at it. Oh yeah, that was the one from earlier. Thank you, Fancy. That was very well received. There you go. Kagate Kakmak, my man, right? I've been asking where Kakmak's been for weeks. BC, tell me your thoughts on Kings of Leon as a band. Some of their songs slap. Dude, most of their songs slap. That's a band that is always averagely criticized, meaning, like, who are your music critics that you lean on, right? That you trust? For me, for the most part, it's allmusic.com. And I'd say 2/3 of their staff, meaning that, to me, if you're like, hey, BC, do you know this album from this random 70s band? It's great. You got to listen to it. I'm going to go to allmusic.com first and get that rating and description. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with allmusic.com on everything. And it doesn't mean they drop the ball big time. They drop the ball all the time. It's still a small amount, but it still pisses me off. I mean, they're trying to, man, they must hate Bright Eyes. I mean, because they're just throwing grenades at them. But Kings of Leon gets reviewed sometimes in a very sort of average way. And maybe it's because from the outside, from the deep, ignorant outside, are they a bit repetitive? Yes. But I've had an interesting life cycle with them, meaning when they first came out with their EP, I remember my uncle Dave in Pennsylvania burning me a copy and mailing it to me and being like, you got to check this out. And that led to that first album, Youth and Young Manhood, which is raw. I sound like Vince McMahon there, right? Cover, put a headpiece on, please. I'm about to. All right. Too soon on that, too. What were we talking about? Vince taking a dump? Yeah. All right. The first album, so raw. That's the band I fell in love with. The Loose on the Turns, right? The what is it? Two brothers and a cousin, or whatever the combination is. They all, they grew up with a very aggressive parenting style of traveling ministry and all that. And they were just sort of rebelling now as a rock band. And they looked like stereotypic like actors that would play rock stars in a movie, right? That's what they look like, but they were also cool as shit, and their songs were raw, and they had their own lane around that time of 04, 05, 06, in my opinion, where I really think rock made a huge comeback, because in a lot of ways, the great rock that was happening off the radar, the alt country movement, the indie rock movement, it finally kind of came to the forefront, maybe because the turn of the century brought Napster and the ability to burn CDs, ridiculously. So you could just go over someone's house and take their entire catalog, whether in your iPod or, it changed the game. So we were able to now have more access to this type of music. But they had a really cool lane, I thought, in that era, that they were not overly musically brilliant, but they were aggressive, they were raw, and eventually, especially in that run through albums about 2 through 4, their lyrics were hilarious, over the top, sexual partying, just like This Is Who We Are. So I fell in love with the rawness of the first one, and as that rawness started to become commercial, I did sort of lose interest. But I will say, I should probably throw up their discography to do this right. But, was it the third album, which was really, or was it the second, the one where they really made a move toward commerciality? There we go. Oh yeah, it's the second one. Aha Shake Heartbreak, 2004. That's still my favorite record. That, because it retains some of that rawness from the past, and it brought with it a much greater understanding and attention to detail about of popcraft, about how to, create more accessible songs, but that still retain who they are. They're greasy, they're grimy, they're rockers. They are they are fans of the same heroes more than likely that I was, right? But then I saw them at Toad's Place in New Haven. Bogo and I went, probably 2004, and I was fired up, and it was like a weeknight, and I had a good run. And so if you don't know, like, Toad's Place is like one of those legendary clubs in New Haven, right around the corner from Yale University, right next to Yorkshire Pizza, which is, that Greek style that I'm talking about. Tremendous pizza there, even though it's not even in the top whatever of what people that come to New Haven that are looking for New Haven pizza are looking for, because it's not New Haven pizza. Anyways, Toad's is the legendary place where, like, the Stones would play unannounced, or, Dylan played in the 80s, and the Grateful Dead. I mean, everybody's freaking played there. So you expect things. If, by 2004, you're going to Toad's Place, I don't know, you kind of expect people are going to raise it a little, or maybe the other side. You expect that the crowd can raise it, because in an intimate club like Toad's, which is one square room with a short stage, I mean, it's intimate is heck, right? The crowd has power. I believe in that at a rock show. The crowd has, especially the more intimate the venue, the more power the crowd can have. But the crowd has power to influence. Case in example, right around I'd say 2012-ish, I went to Toad's to see The Head and the Heart. But while what's his name was still in the band, Josiah Johnson was still in the band. He was what got me into that band. So this was peak end of first album tour, The Head and the Heart. But it was like a Monday night show. And it was when college was not in session. When college is in session, New Haven's on fire, right? There's 5 colleges in New Haven, Yale included. But when it's not, so it was, a Monday night kind of off-season show. And I remember on the drive up telling Tell him, Bogo. We have a responsibility tonight. If we time it right, if we bring it in a certain way, we may be able to elevate these guys so that we don't have another fill in the blank. What am I talking about? Another Kings of Leon at Toad's Place. Like when I saw them in 2004 and they showed up on a Monday night and they were drugged and stoned out of their gourds and played a 31-minute show, basically playing every song in the album in order, exactly how it sounds on the CD, and kind of barely holding it together, especially the guitarist who was like passing out on his feet. And I was so underwhelmed that I kind of pulled out of the band. That's kind of unfair because that is unfair because I saw them a year later at Bonnaroo having very low expectations because of that, and they were pretty damn good. But that night in 2012 with the Head and the Heart, I don't know why I had that coach's speech in the car, but I'm like, if we bring it, we may be able to get them to provide something they didn't expect to need or want to provide. Like if you go to enough concerts, you begin to like be able to break them down as what they are, as, artistic statements, not just a function for me to come get drunk and stoned with my friends, right? Like, or a foundation, a landmark for that. But instead, that show went from, okay, cool, decent Monday night show to, I have to believe, the best show of their tour that year and one of the 10 best shows I've ever been. I think I've been to, 90 something concerts, but like 75% of those were in like a 5-year span. To be very fair, or 2 separate 5-year spans where I was basically a professional concert goer in my personal life. But we raised the Head and the Heart as a crowd because this crowd went nuts after the first song, and let them know we know the words to every song, and not in a cheesy way, in a unified front way. Like, we believe in you, but we're going to ask even more of you in this show. And the more we brought it, the more they began to just let it loose. And they were expressing their gratitude and joy for the reception that was totally obviously unexpected. But they also came along with us in terms of what we were non-verbally asking of them, which is to absolutely bring it. And then they unleashed new songs that would end up on the third record. And it was one of those magical nights where you come out of there and you're like, holy shit. And you go, you can be selfish enough to go, I helped make that show happen. And I believe that. As weird as that is, I actually believe that. Also, outside, Josiah Johnson came out on the phone with this girl at the time. And I offered him, and he was smoking a cigarette, and I offered him my pizza, and we were talking, and he definitely thought I was an absolute weirdo. But it was a good moment. It was a good moment. See, that was the old, I guess that's still me, because I guess I still can't be owned my champions in Las Vegas when I'm a couple drinks to the wind. But, if I see you out in public, I'm going to be fired up. You know what I mean? I'm going to be excited about that. So, yeah, I guess I can't be owned Josiah Johnson. Back to Kings of Leon. They got decently commercial after that, pretty aggressively commercial. They didn't sell out. But I think their sound and their creativity hit a certain comfortable speed. The next couple albums, and I my wife surprised me with Come Around Sundown on vinyl like last year for Christmas. Like, this is awesome, from 2010. That's a really good in-between album. Only by the Night Before That, because of the times, they're kind of interchangeable in a lot of ways to me. But 2013's Mechanical Bull, it rewoke me, because I think they reawoke for that record. They weren't basic anymore. They had a deeper understanding in how to structure a really badass studio 4-minute rock song. And, with songs like Comeback Story, which have lyrics that'll, really make you want to jump through a wall and get up out of your own puddle and, put your shit together and get after it, right? There are a few just absolute bangers on that record. And their new one just came out. Can We Please Have Fun? And I downloaded it on Tidal, and I gave it a couple listens. I gotta say, it's consistent with what they do. It's accessible rock and roll, and sometimes it's sexier than others, and sometimes it's more creative than others. But their energy, their attitude, it's still there. They're still a great band. And since not having seen them live since 2005, I'm very intrigued to see what they actually look like live now. Can they jam out a little bit? Can they rock? Can they rock? You know what I mean? Can you tear my face off? You know what I'm saying? I'll give you that opportunity, Kings. But we made that concert happen with the Head. I don't even care if you don't care, but I'm going to take that. That's a big win in this household. All right. Thank you very much for that question. Let's go to Devin Tuck. We know this guy. He's around here every Wednesday. You'll see him at 4 p.m. I don't know much else about him. I got to flirt and F around with throwing out these links and letting the donks come on here and join me. We might have to see someone's pipe, and it may bring an end to this exercise. You know what I'm saying? Is it worth the risk and the roll of the dice? All right. Devin Tuck says, should Hamzat be considered one of the best athletes to compete in the sport? Feel like his pure athleticism isn't talked about enough. It's like I want to say no, but then you watch how quickly he goes from takedown attempt to, oh shit, you're in quicksand, to like before you even thought of the question, he showed you it and showed you the answer and the result. And that isn't just being really smart. That's also being an incredible athlete. So yes, obviously. And I mean, you can just say in general, flat out, if you're a UFC athlete and a professional, you're probably a pretty damn good athlete. But normally I think of athlete as different. Explosive is a lot of times what we line up with an athlete or what have you. Or somebody like a Demetrius Johnson who can just kind of physically do everything and anything and has no holes in his game. But yeah, Hamzat is a pretty damn great athlete. I just want to see him be healthy and consistent and active enough to show us exactly what the ceiling is. That's all we want to see. And I think they should have went with that fight. And I know you got DDP saying that publicly, the same thing, that he would have preferred that. And I don't know what happened, why Hamzat isn't. And it's apparently not a visa. A bunch of MK fans have jumped in the YouTube comments and been like, forget about dead wrong. You're wrong, BC and LT. He's got a tour of Australia apparently scheduled to go, meet, handshake, and go to gyms and all that. So, and more, whatever he's got going on in business. I'm not trying to act like I know. But so if it's not visa related, is it injury, or did he prefer the fight be later or not there? Like, I don't know. But I hope for the UFC's case, because of how hard it has been to align him with a date and be consistent and then get the very best of him on that night. When it happens, it looks like the Robert Whittaker fight. And again, it's not like he's had the wheels fall off, right? He's just sort of had the well-documented weird sort of moments or illnesses or layoffs all together. But I want to see it now. It's time. Let's go. Let's see him against everybody, because he moves product with clicks too. And maybe people don't think of that anymore. And maybe people don't care. And it's still part of, my job security. So I still keep an ear out of understanding in terms of, who actually does move the needle these days. But that interview we did with Gilbert, sure, it was prime MK with the Showtime budget. And we were able to go with, I think we went with CBS actually on that one, to the ATT. This was Kill Cliff and sit down with Gilbert Burns. It was a great interview. And we went back a second time. But the first time it did just stupid, ridiculous traffic, because Chimaev is that guy. And I think he's still that guy, even with some of the, I guess, I don't want to say missteps, but just the journey that he's had to take to get here. But damn, he should be fighting for the middleweight title, right? I don't know. Maybe they had to rush that title. It seems like it doesn't feel like at the same time that they're like out of pocket on matchmaking and kind of like, on skates and don't know how to skate at times. And they're just kind of saving main events. But then other times it's like, we still got it. 311, they still got it. 312, the main and co-main combo, I love it. So some people think MMA draw, right? I read that Zach Arnold stuff that it's an FU by the UFC to Vegas for the recent battle between Dana and the MGM properties. I don't know. That's, it's an interesting theory. Is Dana underserving the Vegas market as a response or a reply? I don't know. It's a fun conspiracy theory, but he's certainly bringing it in LA for that new arena. So let's get excited. 311's a great card and a sneaky great band, right? Devin Tuck, for sure. For sure. Okay. Thank you. Man, imagine if you like this chat, but you hate the music that we're talking about. You're going to hate me soon, right? It's going to be awful, but you gotta commit yourself to the art, right? It's fantastic. Okay. Favorite Slop Fest fight of 2024. So that's 9:15 a.m. sliding in. Thank you, 9:15 for support. What time? I mean, is it what happens to you at 9:15 a.m. that would lead you to actually name yourself that, right? Maybe that's the time that you was born, yo, and I'm down with that. But favorite, I thought you were gonna say favorite slap fight, and I'm like, oh, dude, the big Hawaiian against the damn Wolverine, right? Right? I don't know. Are those two people in that space? My favorite slop fest fight. It's a great question. One I'm ill prepared for, but let me like think about that. Oh, there's been a few of those donk fights lately where it's just, hands down, just throwing bombs, chasing each other around, and craziness has happened. I mean, there is something I really love about these prelim bangers that evolve only due to the fact that these fighters have balls and they have zero defensive instinct or technique at this point in their career or what have you, or want to get out of the way, and they become these type of amazing ones. Nate Landwehr used to be one of the MVPs of this. That's why I want to protect the action heroes of today. Well, we all love our action heroes and give them the rub, but how about the sub action? How about, action heroes become heroes if you think about it, because they win these action fights. And when you win fights after taking damage, it's the story of the American dream in our lives. I mean, that's why we relate to it so much. Get off the canvas. It's the Rocky story. We all love the damn underdog in that regard. Where was I going with that? It's a great question. It really is. If I could rewound about 30 seconds, I'd be right back in the point, but I'm not. Oh, yeah, I know. But but if you don't win these action fights, people don't look at you as a loser, but you become what I love to call a TV fighter. You become the glorified action guy who makes great TV because he's only kind of average good and he's deficient in some of these key areas, but he's ballsy and athletic and fun. I mean, there's how it goes. So I love this genre, this division. I mean, the MVP to me of this division, of this classification of fighter, of TV fighter, of fun, and by the way, they don't always have to be a brawler. You need an understanding of the action fight genre, right? Obviously, you need to be able, whether it's somebody pulling you into it or not, you need to be able to entertain us on that side of it. But sometimes it's just the career arc of the person. Aaron Pico, for example, to me is reality TV. Every time he fights, it's going to be a wild ride. You don't know where he's at in his life or career. What's next? He's about to finally fight for a title. Is Bellator still a thing? I don't know, but we can get involved in the story too. And when you have both, then we care. And when you do weird things like Vanessa Demopoulos, great TV fighter, right? Does weird things too on top of that. Wins fights in like last minute rally type of, Paul Craig in the Paul Craig prime was a great TV fighter, if we're really being honest. But what does that line up to my favorite slop fest? I don't know. What's not going to win fight of the year, but I think needs a bigger push is the Royval Tatsuro Taira one. And that one, the skill level of those guys are way beyond slop fest. So I don't want to disrespect by putting that in the same, sentence. But there were elements of that fight which were almost kind of donkish and kind of ridiculous that helped make it such a fun action fight. Where it was, the high level skill of Royval for sure, but it was also Taira just having balls and just going after it, man. And also not moving his head one time in the whole fight, which was a big part of it. That had a slop feel, but I did want to shout out that fight and remember. I mean, I wonder if that fight from the Sphere card is going to win fight of the year. I am wondering. I'm seeing a lot of people giving that love. What was that? Rebovich versus whatever. I'm washed at this point. But what were some of the other slap sloppers of this year, right? I mean, it's inevitably the lower tier. It's like the highlights of the prelim cards, if we're being fair, right? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself in a circle and you're just watching. And I think that's that's really yeah, there we go. All right. What else we got here? Let's go over to Alan. Got 100 problems and bitch is one. Yeah, you're damn right. I mean, Jay-Z's got some problems right now. There's some issues over there on that. So you hear what Larry Johnson, I'm not trying to put over a Jason Whitlock interview of ex-NFL running back Larry Johnson, but did you hear it's not like that story is going to help the situation, right? I mean, we all know that the music industry is gross, but it's like, how gross do we even have a grasp of knowledge, of understanding? And how deep does that go into Hollywood, into this, into that? You know what I mean? Yeah, where there's money and power and fame, there's greed and shame oh, damn, Alan W. Right? I mean, I don't know how we make it. I really don't. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep the lights on here. Who else we got here? Brody Merritt coming in here. Brody, how are you, brother? Right? Brody, am I an Oasis fan? So I have a love and appreciation for Oasis to a certain degree, though. Some of it was just laziness on my part, but I did never take the dive. You know, I know the hits off the first two albums, but I don't know the first two albums front to back like I probably should. I did own the third album. What was that? Don't Look Back, on CD, buying it when it came out, and still to some degree have an endearing heart for it, but also it's grandiose unnecessarily and is ad nauseum at times. Yeah, that album is not their best. Got some fun moments to relive, but you know, I ran the gamut of American Beatles hardcore fan who then discovers Oasis and is like, at first, you know, these guys are clowns, or these guys are just basically shamelessly being like cosplay. But then you realize, oh yeah, also they're brilliant, you know. Also, they're a real rock and roll band. They're kind of awesome. They're also ridiculous, but they're also kind of awesome. And they have endured, and I give them credit. But no, I owe them. Well, no, I don't mean they've endured. I mean they're not. It's not like they're together. I'm saying the you know the critical respect I feel has endured. And you know, they were fun, ridiculous from an American standpoint. You know, the brother swap on that MTV Unplugged, like there was some fun moments along the way for them, always taking themselves or Liam always taking himself way too seriously. But it's probably time I get intimate with everything and know what the hell I'm talking about. I had a brief run, by the way, in the early 2000s with Travis. Remember that British band? The Man Who album? Hell yeah. Even the one after that, the commercial one, I like that one too. But the Man Who, I'll still rock to this day. But I can only rock so hard if I haven't done the time with them, right? That's what it's at. That's where it's at. All right. You know, we got more Fancy Mortimer coming in here. Thanks for supporting me. Thank you, sir. Give King X's Gretchen Goes to Nebraska a spin. All right. All right. I'll take that. I'll take that offering from you. Thank you, sir. Let me write that down. I was listening to what? MF Doom from Louisville's own, the real Saul. I was checking that out. So Fancy's got me on this all right. Man, I just did that like I was an old guy trying to pay at the pump with a credit card for the first time. But you know what? Sometimes at 46, I am, to be very fair with you. Thanks for the support there, Fancy. All right, will Reggie come back? We should take bets on it. We should have Long Island Luke be the official bookie of the BCX. By the way, Long Island Luke not even close to the degenerate that we say he is on the show in MK lore, though. So just so you know, kind of a degenerate, but not like fully. No. All right, Dave Sandine's itching right now. Can BC talk about his snow removal methods for the driveway? Wow, relatable stuff, Dave. Wow. Have the kids shovel, use a snowblower, hire it out. These are the questions that Dave Sandine needs answers to. Dave, I have a driveway that is in front of a 2-car garage, so it's two, and it's probably about, I don't know, distances. It's medium size. I snowblow with an old ass snowblower that's, rickety and fighting for survival every year, but every year I bring it back to life. And I love doing it. So in high school, my dad never let me snowblow or mow the lawn. He just assumed I'd donk it up, and he's probably right in hindsight. But I didn't gain a lot of those key man skills that I should have in the training that should have come with that. So I still really enjoy lawn care. I don't go nuts with it. I'm certainly not to the level of my neighbors or have the drive to be, but and some years I'm just like, we're going to be that house. We're just going to be that other house in the neighborhood. But the snow blowing, I get behind too. I mean, it's never fun, right? But it's kind of fun at the same time. I rented a house before this that had a grand circular driveway. Not that the house was overly nice. It just had one of those old school circular driveways. It was on a somewhat busy road. And that was before I got the snowblower. And I would I'd be 30 years old, hand shoveling that. And that's like a half day's work, it feels like. Those are the dark days. You got to put in the work in those days, get the back pain that make you put hair on your chest. You know what I'm saying, Dave? But no, the kids definitely help out with the shoveling, especially now when they're 16 for sure. But I'd say I probably hoard those too much. I let them mow the lawn and I bring them in on that, but I probably should get them. I should. In fact, I will. I'm gonna get them trained up on that snowblower. Now, the thing is, though, most mechanical things like that, that I own, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So these things are usually threatening to die at all. Usually within a month of me buying it, they're already threatening in some form to die, right? But I'm just trying to keep them alive. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm trying to keep them alive, usually out of my own ignorance, but I'm aggressively trying to keep them alive. So that's what you got with me, you know. Do I have the requisite skills to run a house? I'm still making it work, right? I'm still making it work. There we go. What else we got from Two Chain? Wow, Two Chain sliding in here from Las Vegas. Thank you for supporting this guy. Do I think Bilal will go on Ariel's show next Monday? That's a great question and topical, I guess, to some degree, based upon what happened let me get this straight. Bilal was on the Jake Shields podcast and said that Ariel never invited him on his podcast ever. And I guess they insinuated that it was due to the Israel-Palestine conflict. Ariel then showed receipts but then Ariel was like really aggressive today, like really aggressive coming back at Jake Shields. So like, I don't know, that was pretty damn aggressive. So I don't know, like that's their beef, whatever. But do I think it'll end with Bilal showing up on Ariel's show? I know he offered it finally, like fully, like to be on either show, basically. I don't know. Let's see. Would he? I mean, it would violate what is the unspoken Ali rule that Ali fighters aren't allowed on there. I don't even know about that drama. I really don't care about that anyway either. But I don't think he'll ultimately go. But do I think he should? Would I want him to? I mean, it would be entertainment, I guess, to some degree. And I'd rather people get along than not, especially during these times where, legitimate conflicts are happening out there with, major nations of which fighters are represented in our sphere here. So I would want that. But yeah, it's not my battle also, whatever, right? I mean, I'm trying to keep me on the tracks. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to run this train into anybody else. You could take that stuff to the Marines. Okay. You know what I mean? Right. It's so gross, right? Yeah. All right. That guy that we're looking for that guy for a while. Reggie is the Rolly Romero. Dude, that's a great call. Reggie Jackson is the Rolly Romero of the cat world. I don't know if I subscribe to the belief that Reggie is as witty or as funny in theory as I know Rolando Romero, the comedic genius, the master of dry timing is. So they're not similar in that regard. But yeah, the colorfully comical, not give an F, the shameless, they lean into things shamelessly, right? Yeah. I can see that similarity there. I mean, you have to understand at the end of the day, whatever you think about me, don't ever forget that I'm from a factory town. All right. So I like me a little bit crazy. Thank you. A little bit though. Don't take my organs. All right. Thanks. We're not going to do it. Hey, Two Chains is back, right? Two Chains is always here. Did you ever see the FX boxing show Lights Out? No, I did not. I did not see that. I missed it. I don't get into scripted stuff enough, to be fair. I don't read enough, to be fair. I play Fortnite and I listen to great vinyl. And I paint weird paintings too. But no, I would like to check it out and get back to you on that, Two Chains, because I do love me. I mean, really, boxing makes the best. It makes the best dramas, right? It really does. I mean, you know what? Even a ridiculous movie. What's that ridiculous Jake Gyllenhaal movie? Was that Southpaw? And it actually was. I was going to say, like, it's ridiculous from the sense that it's so over the top and every cliche for boxing, like all at once. But it's also kind of badass at the same time. Like they went for it and they kind of almost said, yeah, boxing, it nails. It bangs Two Chains. You know that. All right. You know that. I mean, if there's a big fight in Vegas, Two Chains is going to be there. That's the truth. Guy lives for it. All right, what else we got here? Lazy bed. I know you're around here. Yeah. What's your favorite Christmas song, BC? Eggnog, yay or nay? So here's the interesting thing. I never had eggnog my whole life. Probably because I must have assumed it was going to be disgusting as a kid. Dude, that kid was an idiot because I went through a stretch in my early 30s where I was like, really tried it for the first time. And then I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Right. I mean, it's sexy, right? It's tremendous. And then you can get it flavor. Then there's a pumpkin eggnog. And then, I don't know, oh, now we can have that in October too, right? Because everything's got to be pumpkin. But then it's also ridiculously high in fat content. I haven't had in a while because for a couple Christmases, I mean, I went to town on that stuff. But I'm always lingering to make a comeback. My biggest hang up, excuse me, is sparkling cider on the holidays. You go to the grocery store, grab like 6 or 7 bottles, and they'll be like, "Why'd you get so many?" Because I want to drink it. You know what I mean? I want to drink all of it. I got to get out of that way. I haven't been on that train in a while, but I'll run that train. You know what I'm saying? Right? I'll enlist. Thank you very much. What's my favorite Christmas song? Whenever my kids ask, so my wife and kids love the crap out of Christmas music. And I know I basically just spoke, probably what everybody's family is like, but I mean, they just love it. I mean, one of my sons, he only listens to Christmas music. He doesn't listen to other music. He only listens. I'm like, what did I do? What happened? You know what I mean? Like, how did we get here? I must travel too much because they like Hallmark movies too. I mean, they're great sensitive men, but I'll probably tell them Good King Wenceslas because it's such a ridiculous song that it's so awesome. But who really says that? If I could go with a version, I would say that the David Bowie and Bing Crosby Little Drummer Boy famous, Christmas TV special video that you see often, that's the best thing ever for Christmas music. Okay. But do I have, jams when they come on? Yeah, Mela Kaniki Mock was a jam. All right. And obviously it's got a great Christmas Vacation connection, but it's that thing, that's a party in a song right there for Christmas, right? So I'm gonna go with that one also as high up in the I got another one. What other one? I won't hate on Dominic the Donkey either. It's in the nostalgia category for sure. Like I can't do Grandma getting run over by the reindeer another time my whole life, even though that was like really the best thing ever from most of my life as a child. I'm not yet done with that, but with Dominic the Donkey, there's a deeper though Christmas battle going on in my house. People are taking sides. It's a battle of idealisms. I claim that Holiday in Handcuffs is like the perfect, most rewatchable, most ridiculously but funny, but still kind of ridiculous. But man, this movie sucks. But also, it's really awesome Christmas movie, and it's got AC Slater and Sabrina the Teenage Witch in it. And my kids hate that movie, and they used to appease me by letting me make a grand deal about like, oh, it's Christmas movie night, like I'm in control now. Now we're gonna get down to the good stuff, and I'll do the annoying dad thing. I'll play that tune, and I'll do an encore of that song too. But now they're like, I don't think I need to sit here and watch this, so I get to put the dad guilt and the Christmas season up against them. But in the reality, I'm just protecting AC Slater, and I don't even think he deserves it, by the way. I like AC Slater more than I like Mario Lopez. I don't think anyone's ever said that publicly, but I do. That's my take. All right, that's my hot take. There you go. More news at 11. All right, we're rumbling, we're rambling. There we go. 9:15 a.m.'s back at it. Well, favorites out of the 250 top comedy assassins. We talk about this. I'm not a great deep comedic person. While that's the stupidest thing I ever said. I hate laughing. No, I don't have the commitment in the recent decades to keeping up with live comedy and where it goes and who's in it and who's on top. And don't have enough, I mean, if you ask me what like the last 2 comedy specials you watched, I'm going to say the Gringo Poppy, and you might be surprised, and I don't think you're surprised at all, right? Right? Yeah. But the last time I could have a relevant conversation about this was probably the late 90s, to be fair. But the 90s were great though for stand-up comedy, especially with the launch of Comedy Central and the commitment of that channel throughout the late 90s to put together just random collections of short bits from different comics in a very digestible format that became kind of a new way to take that genre down after school every day, so shout out to them for doing that. And Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer is the GOAT comedy special from me. But no, Rogan's comedy's bad, in my opinion. Not looking to dunk on him necessarily, although height-wise, I probably could, right? No, I'm 6'1.5", and I'm a notoriously poor jumper. I play below the rim, all right? We know that about me already. I'm gonna get in your armpit. I'm gonna invest, all right? I'm gonna invest space in there. We're gonna become, yeah. I mean, it was what James Kirkland famously told Jim Lampley in the HBO fighter interviews that were aired before the Canelo Kirkland fight, when Kirkland said, "I want to get inside on him, and I want to smell his musk. I want to know, what that meant. You know what I mean?" And like Jim Lampley was like, okay, all right. This guy should probably be incarcerated. No, it was just delivered like as erotically violent as possible, just like ridiculous. Like, what did you just say? But yeah, I got to get back. Although I did go out to some comedy shows in like a a couple couples getting together and going out for a night once a year, and gave me the itch to want to get back and watch and monitor the scene again, right? But yeah, probably not. All right, but thanks 9:15 a.m. for stepping in, for believing in me, for trying it out. All right, what do we got here from Jay? Is that not Jay? Probably not Jay Aaron, right? Probably not Pennington James, right? I know which Jay this is. That's my guy. He says, "What up, BC? I'll never forget going to UFC 118 and cheering for my man. Oh, good Lord, James Lights Out Tony. Rough night for him, yes, against Randy Cooter. I feel like his career gets overlooked. Can we have a career soliloquy on James Lights Out Tony?" We would need Jay a lot of time for this, but thank you, first of all, for your support of this for this service. All right, this is a service I own. Thank you, Dwyer. No, Jay, thank you for that. James Lights Out Tony gets really overlooked by today's fight fans, or even the fight fans like me who have stayed fight fans through the years. And it's probably because, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned the UFC 118, because like that was a big, I mean, there's so many people that only know him because of that and didn't realize that he was also like a Hall of Fame pedigree great fighter, and he would inevitably rightfully go in the Hall of Fame during the pandemic. But it wasn't just the UFC fight and the shamelessness at that point. He had a fairly shameless end to his career, and like who hasn't to some degree. I mean, at least Holyfield stayed at a fairly high level because of where the heavyweight division was, that even though when he lingered in his late 40s, we're like, oh, just stop. But also you might have actually beaten Value for the title on Christmas Day, and you got robbed in Moscow. Nobody wanted you in that fight, Evander, but I actually think you won it against that hairy, sweaty monstrosity of a man. And Roy Jones, there were a couple runs in there where it was very shameless and tough to see it. I mean, it could have been worse, right? It could have been even more shameless and tough to see. There was elements of dignity at times shining through there. It just was ill-advisable. Tony's run at the end, even through some of the good times, like when I say good times, the dude rose to heavyweight and won a heavyweight title. Now, he got stripped of it because he failed the steroid test, and it's a no contest, and he's technically not ever gets to call himself a heavyweight champion. But in an era where they were probably all on PEDs, or should have been anyway, his win over John Ruiz like tells you that like there's a Roberto Duran, like to some degree, old school warrior dog legend in there who just can't help. But if he's gonna linger, he's gonna find a way to be competitive at that age in that division. I mean, the dude went. So even if you only know him from like that, it's hard to then master who like the prime version was, 168, like who that guy was. I mean, that guy was one of the best fighters of all time. And it's because that guy was one of the best fighters of all time that he could do, I don't want to say the impossible, but the improbable and the rare, which is linger to the effect that he did effectively. Like he lingered to a shameless point, shameless enough that he would go through that 118 payday just for the damn payday. And it seemed like everybody knew that. And he was shamelessly announcing that, like we knew what was going on. It was Dana's opportunity to prove a point, and, Randy by proxy MMA. But all of that mixed with probably the personality he had become by the time he was a heavyweight, where it was obnoxious, and he was like at times great, because James Toney was a hell of a trash talker. At times it was great, and at times you're just like, man, this guy's lost it. But he could only be in that era. I mean, there are great fight fans who respect who he was in his absolute prime, but they'll tell you the best and most fun Tony run was at cruiserweight. And if you watch the 2003 title fight at the Mohegan Sun against Vasily Jirov and Emmanuel Stewart's incredible call of, oh my God, look at this. I mean, you can imagine Rafe Bugs losing his shit to that, right? That version of Tony was incredible. And that, that's largely the guy who would then move up to heavyweight. And even before the steroid pop and the, loss of his title win over John Ruiz in a very bad heavyweight era, his knockout of Evander Holyfield, in my opinion, is absolutely legit. I mean, that was it was an aging Holyfield, and it was a particularly dark period for an aging Holyfield, who would then have like a little bit of a resurgence again in a very aftermarket way, in a very aftermarket era of the division where it made that possible. But Tony at cruiser and heavy was so fun to watch because the swagger was, out of control at this point, but his ability to retain the crux of who he was in those smaller weight classes, but bring the smaller man's speed up with the older man's brain, and the way he would stand in the pocket in the danger zone and dare you to trade with him and shoulder roll and, sting you like a cobra. That's also the crux of what we love about James Toney, the James Toney from the cruiserweight run. The way he leaned on skill and just had the balls to stand in there with these guys. But obviously it's all built upon the foundation of who he was on the way up at 160 and 168. And there's like 4 or 5 classic fights that we all should know and watch. And Tony was the guy that I like kind of missed in the 90s. Like I knew about him, of course, leading up to the Roy Jones fight, but I didn't follow him fight for fight like I should have in hindsight, because he was that great. But a couple of his fights, what's the short list here? If you had to put together a package of what do you see right now from the experience, from the journey of him? I mean, there's many ways you can go. You got to see the Roy Jones fight, even though unfortunately, for as big as that fight was and as legendary, and Roy was amazing in that fight, that was a, somewhat severely compromised in weight. I mean, his own fault. I mean, he accepted the fight, but he was grown out of that weight class at that point, and it limited to some degree whether he was going to be able to hang with that version of Jones. We all know that. But the Mike McCallum fight from 1997, absolutely vacant cruiserweight title bout. You're absolutely going to have to watch that one. That's sort of the beginning of that final run of greatness that we saw out of him. But the Roy Jones fight, Montel Griffin, the fights around that. What's the one I'm specifically missing? The first Mike McCallum fight. There it is, from 1992. The majority decision win for Tony here. The first Mike McCallum fight, to me, that's my favorite. No, that's the rematch. Holy crap. I've totally forgot that they fought 3 times. The first one being a split draw. All right, you know what? Maybe there's a wake-up call to BC to get back in and get the right reps that I needed on there. a hell of a career. Yeah, I remember the Murky Sosa fight. I remember the Reggie Johnson fight. I remember these early on his rise up there while still fighting at middleweight. But 68 was the prime, the best version of James Toney. But, you know, I got to go back there and watch that Mike McCallum trilogy, at least those first two. No doubt about that. Jay, thank you for playing. Thank you. All right. You know, Alan's around. All right. Yeah, beige with the, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm a happily married man, but that is what I'm talking about. Thank you, Alan. No doubt about it. You know, Alan W, say what you want. You know, the guy gets down. He knows what's up. Alan W knows what's up, you know. I've offered. I say, Alan W, come join the live chat. He doesn't want to do it. I can't make him. All right. We got to get Appy on this. Can we? Is that something that you guys would hate or love? Because for me, I'm like, Appy's perfectly weird. He's delightfully weird. Let's get Appy on this show, right? But there might not be a market for that. You gotta really come to terms with that. All right. All right. There we go. All good on that. Let's get back into it. Let's hit it, Tui. Here we go. 9:15 a.m. We hit that already. Thank you. I hit the wrong button. I'm trying. I'm trying over here. Oh, here we go. This is AZ Ray Videos. We love this. Wait, this guy's a newcomer. We're gonna have to initiate this guy. Thank you though for supporting this here, chat. He says, "Oh, this is Arturo from Mexico." Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Arturo says, "Even started my own YouTube channel. It must be AZ Ray Videos, right?" Thoughts on Rocha versus Curiel, fireworks or one-sided assault? I'm gonna go fireworks. I'm gonna go fireworks. All right. I'm gonna go that. I'm ready. I mean, Rocha bangs. No doubt about it. Alan, right? Wow, Alan. Okay. I mean, what are we doing here, Alan? Well, I mean, wow. That's an aggressive move from you and an aggressive question. Who's the cook in the relationship? What dish can you make well? Go order a Sally's pie, you son of a bitch. Thank you, Alan, for your aggressiveness. Alan just going the colors change. Now it's red. Alan going hard in the paint. The wife is a very good cook. Very good cook. I'm hilariously bad at cooking. It can be said by few people, and I would lead that charge, that there have been times in my 17 years of marriage that I took cooking or the responsibility of it more seriously. There were certainly times when my wife used to work more. She works part-time now, but when she used to work more and I'd fill those gaps, and be Mr. Mom and be the dad, I certainly could whip things up. And maybe at the time we're armed with some options even. I think there were times that I was okay, that I knew that I could navigate, that I could even just open the cupboard and put something together, right? But I also have some the dark ages between there where I'm not functioning as a cook. There's just nothing. There's no output, and maybe it's laziness at times. Maybe it's I lose my mojo. I mean, sometimes inevitably you're going to get ambitious. And the competitor in me wants to start climbing and learning, but I hit walls early, and then you mess up a real big meal after getting excited, and that's you take an L. You can take an L in those moments too. But I'm okay. I'm functional. I'll stay at that. I can hold a roster spot, but barely. All right. And if you ask the other people, that the report, they'd give you a worse rating. They would, but I know what's in me. Okay, I could be better. I will be better. Thank you, Alan. Alan's not afraid to put you on the couch. Let's hope it's a therapist couch, not a casting one. Two Chang's back at it. You see, Hawk Tua scammed everyone and hasn't been on social since. I want to see where this goes. So for the record, you guys know I'm Team Hawk Tua. Girl, what's her name? Haley Welch. Not, and I don't have an emotional or financial investment. I just mean, I thought it's been cool how she's been able to turn this 15 seconds, of fame, or at least that you would have thought that what something like that could be worth after the initial hit of it. And the hit was strong. We all laughed at it and we're like, oh my God. I mean, it was one of those perfect moments. Never expected it would go here, right? With the full almost celeb turn and almost a little bit of staying power as a rebranded positive personality, maybe. seems to do nice things for animals and loves Pookie. That's the extent that I know from I'm not going to listen to the podcast. I'm not invested, okay, on that level. But the ensuing crypto scam, which, if you're, in my opinion, if you're, losing your shirt buying it or losing your shirt attempting to scam people out of buying it, it's all the same, whether you knew what you're doing or not. Like, you signed up to be a lord and laird. You knew what you were getting from us. Okay. At least can we laugh about it? No, I don't know. I hope we can at this point. Okay. I guess we've survived the relationship to this level. So I know that there's like only so much probably that Haley knew about this and how it works, but you obviously have to then take responsibility if what happens immediately after happens to you. And it seems everyone's cornered into this is 100% a scam, and we have proof. And I saw some like live, what was it, like a Twitter space thing where she was like just dropped out of the convo when it got hot, when the water got hot. I mean, I'm not losing sleep over it, but to just go dark, I mean, maybe this is her just being like, I don't even want this fame thing. And I think that's probably the secret to her success this whole time, is being, I mean, I think she like literally lives with her grandparents in like a farm or something, like, is like, as small, like, is as advertised, from just being delightfully small town and has a certain viewpoint of the world, and has seemed to spin that into having a very positive message, and seems to be only good stuff. But you're going to have a responsibility because your name's attached to this. So hopefully she'll come forward and there'll be some resolution here. But yeah, this is dicey. This is certainly a dicey situation. Yeah, I don't mess around with Doge or any of them damn coins. Maybe maybe for better or worse. I don't know. But I got Fortnite to play. All right, I got a lot of records, to be very fair with you. Yeah, excuse me. There we go. All right. Alan's back at it. This guy just Alan's like on the pickup court. So just pick your pocket and lay it in. Only now he's putting it in my pocket. So thank you, Alan. BC, do a main card minute watch long. I would be down for that type of crossover sensation if schedule wise it was able to work, because I don't think you can do a main card minute watch along sober. I think that's against the guide laws of what Luke Noseda and Gaffney, Jim Pierre have established on that podcast, and that they're fantastic gentlemen who were, pretty damn big parts of the engine behind the scenes that ran MK and really the I mean, I think Gaff was there longer, but Gaff at least was definitely there at the mountaintop moments. I think Long Island Luke now, but Long Island Luke is now rejuvenated in a key role now. He's doing great work. But yeah, let's make it happen. All right. But he's got rules. You got to hit he's got the Mike Tyson. Do you do the Mike Tyson hash smoke thing live on the air too? Guy's aggressive, very aggressive. All right. What do you got here, Two Chinks? Tony Jirov, Forgotten Classic. Damn right, Forgotten Classic. Prime Jim Lampley, and I mentioned him. That's one of Emmanuel Stewart's best fights calling. Glenn Feldman was the judge. That guy lives in my town. Great guy. He judged that fight. Great fight. I mean, Vasily Jirov was a kind of a slick cruiserweight, right? And he had balls. The dude had balls. Yeah, absolutely had balls. A Ukrainian. And that was just such a perfect version. Like, he had no business being at cruiserweight and being, beating Mike McCallum a third time and doing this. But Tony did it. There was sort of that, like, holy shit, can Tony really keep doing this? Can he go up to heavyweight too? Again, it took that era to make it, that. But damn, man, legend in the game. But oddly slips through the cracks to a certain degree, right? He oddly does. Like, those that know, they know for sure, and they know aggressively. They know better than me. I mean, I got blanks I need to fill in his great run, but you got to just love, though, at his foundation and core, he takes no shit under any circumstances, right? And that's the fuel for a lot of the great moments and a lot of the ridiculous moments too. Remember when he would take the mic from Ariel? I mean, like that was poor behavior back then of him, for sure. Yeah. All right, that guy's back at it. There we go. That guy says, bought my partner a plot of land in Scotland. First of all, that guy, thank you for supporting me. And I think you have supported us in the past because you bought your partner a plot of land. The ladyship title pack is the stocking stuffer for Christmas. Can't wait to see the expression on her face. I hope that's a joke. It's a great joke, by the way. That's a great. I mean, it's true. It happened. I can't take it back. I don't feel good about it. I don't think I really understood the full like thing and what that was until after it was already a thing, and then I'm like, we're really, yeah. But whatever. It at the time it helped. It helped pay the bills and move the thing along. And if you guys got caught up in one of our scams, then apologies. Okay. Like Hawk to a girl, I'm just gonna hang up and then get off social. But yeah, good vibes and good sponsorships only from here on. We should get adult aid sponsorship or something, right? That's what we should be doing. Hopefully 25 is just going to be, just massive, taking it to the moon. All right, all the way. Let's go, MK. I mean, does MK still have life in your eyes? Is MK just floating, playing its role in this? Is there another run? All right, I'm ready. I'm ready. That Luke is ready. Luke and I are we're getting along. We're getting along well. We're getting along well. Alan, thank you as always for being that guy. How good was Michael Moore at light heavyweight? He was very good. He was very freaking good. He was one of the best light heavyweights I've ever seen. Seriously, he was, but he was, it's like at heavyweight, he was kind of like, he was a slick heavyweight. He's the first Southpaw heavyweight champion. I mean, he was absolutely legit, but he was unsturdy, unsteady. Inconsistent in terms of being able to channel his elite, almost to some degree like a Chad Dawson in that sense, but Chad held it together for longer and even had a second run in terms of like a second prime where he still held it at a very high level. Moore couldn't hold it together for a long time, but at least he had enough of a run at light heavyweight to show us like, oh my God, this guy might be able to make the leap. Then he made the damn leap and he won the heavyweight championship. And he was beating the tar out of George Foreman, by the way, up until it happened. It did happen, and it happens. You know what I mean? Damn, what a call, right? Shout out Jim Lampley. You're saying, is he mythical? You're asking if Michael Moore at light heavyweight is he mythical like Roy Jones would be if he stayed at middleweight? Is he mythical like Roy Jones would be? Okay, so you're saying if Roy Jones had stayed in one division and just, pulled a Bernard Hopkins, by the way, who spent, a great run until that final amazing run as a very senior champion, but in staying in that one division in middleweight. And so did Gennady Golovkin, and that's why they both had tied for the record of 20 middleweight title defense. 20 title defenses in any division is like, holy crap. Is Michael Moore mythical like that if he stayed there? That's an interesting question. I guess I never thought about that. I mean, there's certainly just, why he went to heavyweight. Like that era had, had a box office, not just, in some eras, the only box office is when you get to the top. In that era, you see an opening where you may be able to go up there and you think you may be able to make something happen. And Moore was able to do that. I loved Moore on the heavyweight rise. Who sent him to hell? Was that David Tua? Yeah. I mean, David Tua sent, or was that IB Ibuchi that sent him to hell? I always get confused between one sending Chris Bird, to the wind and ghosts, and then the other one getting the other guy. But, I talked myself into a corner here. I think Moore was very good, but I don't talk about him in that weight like I talk about Shane Mosley at lightweight or Michael Spinks at light heavyweight. There's levels to that, but Moore was very good. And Teddy Atlas was very good at raising him through out of control theatrics at times, raising him to his highest level. But unfortunately for their relationship, and I think for Moore's psyche, once Teddy became kind of the star of the show, and don't forget Teddy, they were setting up, the groundwork was set up for Moore to fight Tyson. And that would have reunited Teddy feuding with, Mike for the first time since Mike, since Customato fired him after Teddy put the gun in Mike's ear after Mike may or may not have mishandled Teddy's niece or whatever the story and scenario was. I get how that could wear on more, but I think he was always a little unsteady in that regard. But dude, when he was on his game, man, I mean, he had a style too that I think is just sort of timeless, any era type of style too. And he was tough too, but yeah, some guys are, Riddick Bowe for a season, one of the best I've ever seen. But when it goes, you're chasing to keep up. And a lot of these guys can't find that again. I hope all of us can find that switch. I hope, I hope all of us. Yeah, that's great calls right there. Here comes Gotti. I mean, that's the best part about my favorite fight of all time, Gotti Ward 1. And thank you, Alan, once again for your great support of this channel. Is that's, there's so many fights that are Jim Lampley fights or calls that are Jim Lampley calls. And then obviously, even for the short time in the run he had, Emmanuel Stewart has so many big moments and great calls. But the great part about the first Gotti Ward fight, along with the fact that it's my favorite fight of all time and one of the greatest fights in the history of the sport, is I think all three announcers that night, I think it was Larry, right? Yeah, Larry, Jim, and Emmanuel, they all individually were absolutely on fire and raised their game up with that. Maybe to some degree we can correlate that with the responsibility that I think I hold in 2012 in the crowd at Toad's Place for raising the game of the band, The Head and the Heart, and maybe making them jam at a level of emotion and joy and fun and rock that they didn't expect to coming in. I don't know. Sometimes when you have a great fight, it forces out of obviously the broadcasters a great call. And then I think in some weird way, then that great call elevates the fight even more to a higher level. Not every great fight has had a great call along with it, but when those go together, it's a movie, right? I mean, Corrales Castillo won, which is most people's favorite fight, or even candidate for the best fight of all time, and it is in that discussion. Al Bernstein and Steve Albert as a duo calling that fight. That was one of the, and obviously I'm a junkie for this because I'm a degenerate boxing fan who's also a, burgeoning boxing broadcaster who lives this game, loves this game, has a nerd savant level respect for the, the history and the craft of this game. And that fight's call from Albert and Bernstein are just, it's just poetic and perfect. It's like it's the kind of quote, when you're watching a boxing movie and then, and sometimes they'll have real announcers play the boxing announcers, like Barry Tompkins in Rocky IV, but inevitably they're going to be delivering, whether it's, I think Jim and Max were in was it Rocky Balboa or one of the Creeds. We've seen this before. DAZN made a big appearance in the last Creed, right? In a cool way. But the movie lines are always over the top because it's a damn movie. But when the real call of a real great action fight makes it feel as real as a great movie, in that sense of just the entertainment engulfing you into the context of what is happening, where you are living and dying with the heroes and villains on the screen, the call becomes the glue, the the gooey part of the Cadbury egg that hold, we're getting poetic in this bitch, that holds it together. Wow, how did we get here, Alan? Nobody knows. I mean, if I can end my broadcasting career with a call, right? Not that you go into it intending to do that, and not that I'm even a play-by-play guy most of the time. I'm not, but still, to the idea of being able to be on the lead broadcast team of a big fight and somehow add your craft and your art to, again, elevate the enjoyment level for everybody else of something that can be at times so pure and amazing and enthralling and inspiring, then that's it. That's it. That's the cross. That's it, man. That's why we lift them weights in the off season, right? Good. Maybe I get there with the double kebab when Usyk knocked out Tony Bellew, but maybe not. Maybe not. That was a little ridiculous. But shout out to the 80K crew and the podcast crew back then. I'm not afraid. That's the thing. I'm not afraid to go on your broadcast and drop inside jokes of my podcast on there. All right. For better or worse, probably worse. There you go. Devin Tuck, what do you got? What the hell do you have for me? Do you miss when MMA wasn't so mainstream? I do, he says. Well, yes and no. The crux of your question is like a salute to us hardcores who, it gets like this in boxing all the time. And it just happened again with Tyson Paul. When a fight is so popular, and that's what we seem to think we want our fights to just become these crossover cultural events, right? Because that's when they're the most unavoidable. They're just so attractive. It's a thing. It's a thing in the distance that's lit up that, inevitably you must deal with, that's going to entertain you. And by entering that circus tent, it brings out the casual takes, and that annoys us. So do we miss when our sport was more our sport? And I think ultimately we all say yes. But yet at the same time, I really miss 2016. And that was a damn, great commercial year, just the same, birthing new fans left and right, because it was the very apex of the Conor McGregor experience during the same, summer that the UFC was sold to Endeavor, WME, whatever we called it back then. And here we are now with TKO. So that year it was pretty damn mainstream. Although you could even argue it still wasn't as mainstream as it is now in the full ESPN era. And now we're experiencing the fact that it's, owned by this conglomerate that's now merging it with more. Yeah, it's a different time. It's a different era. I miss when it wasn't this as well. Not just because maybe we have a crossover star void to some degree. It's not really fair because there is some, big names that have done big things the last few years, no question about it. But it's not, I guess, the level of what we got spoiled or used to as the sport was still new, and, Rousey's or GSPs or, Brock Lesnar's were flying off every couple of years, not every couple of years, but enough to build this momentum. But what comes with these rocket bursts is the exposure to the mainstream, and there's a good and bad with that, and I think the good outweighs the bad when the things sometimes any sport can be elevated by one team or one player, and it's not usually, sometimes it's not fair and it doesn't always make sense or whatever, but it brings the eyeballs and it raises the money and it opens the opportunity, and we're all living high and fat again. And then there's always a come down, and it's a cyclical thing. I think now the hardest part is it feels like to some degree it's all self-inflicted. Like the greed of the new ownership is turning this product into something that still bangs and still holds my interest and still delivers on the big nights for the most part, and can still get me fired the heck up, right? When they take their best and put it against their best and they put a little promotional muscle behind it. But, and maybe that's why I like boxing more to some degree still, not just because it's my first love, but because it feels more off the radar, off the reservation, gnarly, grimy, our inside club, our inside secret. I kind of miss when MMA was that too. There was a give and take in all eras. I'm just getting nervous that the UFC is almost boxitizing this great vehicle that they've built that is a proven machine, because the new owners want to see how much money that machine can actually print before it bursts, right? But will they be here when it does? Or what's the cost of the turnover and audience that gets created with this type of cycle? I don't know. Sometimes I care about that too much. Sometimes I don't think I care about it enough. It is tied to job security and all that to some degree, but hey, covering these sports I found is a constant cycle of, you know, highs and lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between. Have you seen this shit? Yeah, there you go. There you go, Devin. All right. I mean, I got lost in the woods there. What else we got going on? Okay. There we go. Save me if I'm lingering out there. Two Changs, what do you know? What do you know, Two Changs? Thank you. Thank you for getting my back. Dude, did you see Floyd in Israel in London, by the way? Attacked, it seemed, and then he put out a statement and says there were no punches thrown. He wasn't attacked and he's fine. I don't know. It looked like a gnarly situation tied to his stance on Israel. Weird, just interesting. What was his top weight class? Well, you know, I mean, you if anyone just threw out there welterweight, I mean, could you be proven wrong? You know, that was the run where he was in all of those huge fights and, you know, dominated at such a high level, and especially in big fights. But no, that's not the best version of him, because that version, the 47 and 154, the pay-per-view leading man version of Floyd, it was a different fighter because of what the multi-year and multi-surgery toll on his hands were taking. You know, like a big part of when he was inactive post Mayweather fight, right, where there was like a 2.5 year stretch where he was kind of barely in and out, or every other fight once a year. During that stretch, you know, there's arguments that could be made that stretch allowed him to have the longevity he had because he was taking long breaks and inevitably, you know, resting the hands. But he didn't have the pop. It's funny, he had enough pop to gain your respect. It's something I asked Andre Berto about. So I went out after the last Canelo fight when I was out there, went out to lunch with some all the smoke fight people, and you know, so it's cool that it's like, you know, it's Brian Daly, it's all our people, we love them. But I'm also sitting across from Andre Berto and Andre Durrell, you know, and I'm a boxing guy, so you know, we're just broing out, right? And I'm asking, you know, Berto, and I'm like, what's Floyd's power really like? And he said exactly what I thought he'd said. He's like, you don't think of it as much. And then he lands a sharp, short laser on your chin, and you're like, oh, that could become a problem very quickly. And he brought up what, and oddly enough, Berto's known for not having a long reach, and that in some ways inhibiting him. And Floyd is known for the opposite. He has a frustratingly long reach that you don't really realize is that long. And he mentioned that too, where Floyd's sort of like, you think he's kind of out of your range, and then he's smacking you in the face. But not having the offensive punch, obviously he was a much more brilliant fighter in the second half. And his abilities to sustain with age is insane. And even if you told me that you have proof that every single one of my heroes from this era was on the stuff all the time, I'd probably say you're right, actually, my personal opinion. And I'd say I already thought that anyway, so it's not a big deal. They all are. I don't know if it's Floyd or Manny or who was or how long or whatever. We all have our opinions, whatever, but that's the era it was. But even if you told me you knew and he was and you had proof, even with what he was able to do to sustain and be that great late, it's remarkable. But it doesn't hold a candle to Chang's to the 130-pound Floyd, right? Is that the one? Is that the one I want, or do I want? I think that's the one I want. I mean, because when you still say what is his best performance, you can't not say Diego Corrales. You can't. I'm sorry, you can't not say that. You can't not say that. The hell am I talking about? You can't say that. You can't not say that, actually. That was a fight that people thought Corrales was going to win by knockout, and Floyd proved to be almost the bigger puncher, I guess. Knocked him down 5 times, and Corrales just stepped dead, threw in the damn towel. Holy shit, right? It was just a alarming disarming of a great fighter, of an unbeaten killer. That's the guy. That's Pretty Boy Floyd right there. So this is January 20th, 2001. Floyd is 23 years old, and he's fighting at super featherweight. So that's exactly what I said, 130. Yeah, I'm taking the 130 version of him. He would that's the same version that had the tough fight before that against Emmanuel Augustus, which Floyd called the toughest of his career. The same version of him that would take the 12-round decision after Corrales against Carlos Hernandez. He would stop Jesus Chavez, and then he moves up to 135 and has the back-to-back Jose Luis Castillo fights. That stretch of him obviously is the stretch that is the answer to this question. How long of a stretch are we allowing? If it's a 2-year period, it's that guy exactly. It's the one who walked through Corrales, and it's the one who obviously struggled, despite the fact that we do know Floyd had an injured shoulder in the first Castillo fight. I still think you can watch the first Castillo fight, as we all have done, and score that for him. And the CompuBox numbers were actually alarming in the favor of Castillo. I've also watched that fight with a heavy Floyd eye, and I certainly can see why he could win that fight. And what did he do in the rematch? A fully healthy Floyd, even though it was closer on the scorecards in the rematch, it was wider to the visuals. Still worth watching, by the way, if you haven't seen the rematch. The 2-fight Castillo series is fantastic. That's the best of Floyd. That is a fighter who, I mean, let's not forget, he was like pound for pound top 10 Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year when he's like 21, right? Like, holy crap. That version of him was already built from the amateur pedigree, the Olympic success, the fact that his dad and 2 uncles were pro fighters, and his, Uncle Roger was like absolutely legit. He already had so many things going for him as a full package already at this point at 130 pounds. And he had a little bit of that go get it in him, and he couldn't carry that up. And that's why the comparison between, despite Floyd's 50-0-ness and the money he made and all that, I can't put him above Sugar Ray Leonard in terms of a head-to-head who would win or who's greater. I think Leonard would beat him because I think Leonard had that go get it in him, that dog in him that was a little bit more, and maybe would have been one of the only guys who could push the very prime version of a welterweight Floyd past that and go over the top and beat him. And Floyd couldn't have that at 47 and 54 because of the hands, is my belief, ultimately, even though he was never really that same type of fighter. The closest he came to that was the 130-pound Floyd, and he could be a destroyer. He could stalk you and get you the hell out of there. And he had more pop, and he went after a little bit more. And I mean, he earned his way to become a pay-per-view star. He put in the time. He didn't lean on a name or a celebrity status. It was actually the frustration he hit when he realized that I'm already, pound for pound, the best or one of the best, and I'm not making any money. And and he had the kind of the failed flirtation with rap and that, and he was kind of floundering a bit outside the ring during those years. And Al Heyman, I think, steadied him, but I think that also the Heyman relationship was obviously the wake-up call to Floyd, that if I change things up, especially if I can get out of Bob Arum's way and do it my own way. And Bob offered him $8 million to fight Margarito, and Floyd said, no, I can make more than that. And he proved the immediate fights after that, the ones that he did make a lot more than that. And it worked. So he earned to be put in that spot, to make that decision that he did, that he was going to change his persona, but also that, inevitably he was going to have to change a little bit who he was as a fighter to rise up in weight, because it took the De La Hoya fight to make that big leap up to, that was at 54. So it was a big leap for Floyd to some degree, and favored to win. We all thought he was going. I had fear that Floyd was going to knock Oscar out, being an Oscar fanboy at that point. Oscar fought really well in the first half of that fight. I think as good as you could get out of a 34-year-old version of him who had not treated his body well in that decade at all. Freddie Roach had a really good game plan. De La Hoya couldn't keep it up stamina-wise in the second half, and when Floyd started lining him up with those right hands, I've been around Oscar. We've been having drinks at media dinners or whatever, and I've had some fun moments with him, to be fair, where he's been hilarious and he's been the hero side of Oscar, not the ridiculous side. But I never quite, I've asked him many things. He's told me the inside stories on how unprepared he was for Felix Sturm and how much he doesn't believe he deserved to have won that fight. And I asked him about Cotto, who was right over, and he pulled him in. And I'm like, what would a fight look like between you? And Oscar, he did the job for Cotto. He's like, look, he's tough, but once he start going with that left hook to the body, he'd get me out of there. That would have been an epic fight, by the way, at welterweight. If they could have aligned at a certain point, it wouldn't have worked, but that would have been interesting. But I've never asked Oscar this, but I believe it. I believe in that second half of that fight, it became about maintenance and survival. Then, and it was an 8-4 fight. We all know that. he got gifted that third scorecard, but I don't know. We got lost down the Floyd alley. Let's get a cleanup here. Let's bring it back together. Thank you, Two Changs, as always. As always. Alan knows. Pretty Boy Floyd is the best Floyd. Yeah, Alan knows exactly what's going on here. It really was. It really was, man. And now Two Chains is going to speak the language that I speak, that I live for. Don't forget, when I got into that argument with Floyd Mayweather, which I was a dick and I set it up, yes, when we did the Versace robe ahead of Mayweather versus Logan Paul, and we knew we were going to get the rotating cast on the Showtime Live broadcast of fighters, trainers, promoters, whatever. Those are the best things to host, by the way. Outside of calling live fights, that's the best. That's the most fun job when you're doing one of those live rotating interview shows and you're never sure who's coming next, but you got to be ready to bring it. And you can get magical moments like Yoel Romero and I at that Bellator one. Brilliant, beautiful. The Floyd one, I knew I was poking the bear, but I was trying to poke the bear and then quickly repair and be like, by the way, Floyd, which I said to him, he didn't misinterpret it, but my message was going to be, by the way, we gave you a lot of shit, and I think ultimately we were wrong. Well, I can quibble with some of the decisions and did you control the timing and the terms of who you fought and all that. But he also got out there and fought him and won and went 50-0 and is one of the best of all time. There's no one's questioning that. But when he did put me against the ropes and was like, okay, name the person that I didn't fight that you would have wanted me to. And I could have answered anybody. I mean, I wish I would have said 2007 Miguel Cotto. I wish I would have said that. But I said Paul Williams. Why? Because that's the question, Two Changs. And you know this, man, because when we all watched Paul Williams at the Punch Bowl, the War Grounds, StubHub, call it what you will, when he went in there in that title fight, what was that? July 25th, 2007, I think, and fought Antonio Margarito. And it was one of those epic 12-round slugfests where Paul Williams for the first 6 rounds just puts it on him. And true to form, the best villain of all time in boxing, decrepit at times, Antonio Margarito, but never not entertaining or cool as shit as the villain. He rallied like he always does. And that turned out to be one of those perfect, epic split decision, flip a coin. How do you like it? Who'd you prefer fights? And to Williams' credit, man, he won that fight. That's the best win of his career. Maybe the first Sergio Martinez fight, even though not everyone thought he should have won that. But that's the version at welterweight, that fight. And oh, by the way, no one ever says this. No one ever says this out loud. But we got to be real on the BCX. Margarito may have had loaded gloves for that fight too, against Paul Williams. He might have. It's in the time sequencing. Kermit Cintron believes their rematch was a loaded glove fight. It does fit into the timeline. No, I don't know now. I don't have access to the hand wraps now, but Williams had a chin on him. A real chin. I mean, look, obviously Sergio Martinez knocked him out with one of the greatest one-punch knockouts in title fights, the most stunning, and did that, some degree slow the momentum or the greatness that Williams could have been, sure, especially that version of him at middleweight. But the thing is, after growing out of the 147 division, to Williams' credit, he put together a nice run there. And we got to see some of the best of him, particularly in that 2-fight series with, or the first fight with Sergio Martinez. But unfortunately, the Paul Williams experience, we never got to see it go full bloom, to see what, he was a little bit too willing to take big shots. And the Lara fight was rough and weird. And he should have lost it. And he took a lot of left hands clean in that one. But the welterweight version of him, maybe up and through the Margarito fight, that's an alien. That's a bad dude. That is maybe not too different to compare to 130-pound Diego Corrales. You're one of those freak of nature, way too tall for the division. But at welterweight, Williams had pop. He had power. And he was also, had so long that it looked like he was a spider out there, and he could put volume on you and he could box. And he had an old school kind of understanding of how to fight in the pocket and just the way he carried himself, especially at welterweight. He had like this swagger, but he loved to bang and trade on the inside, man. That is an interesting math problem for Floyd at welterweight. That's a very, 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 very interesting Floyd fight if it would have happened. Very interesting. And Floyd, to his credit, and maybe it's a general respect for Paul Williams too, not just because of where he's at in a wheelchair now after the way that went, but also, like I said, there were flashes from Paul Williams of greatness, but we never got to see him fully land the plane. I overused that line. Floyd would have really had to decode him. And, he would have been favored to do so. And for all we know, that's the thing about Floyd. When I used to put that pressure on him publicly, or try to, obviously I have no effect, right? But of fight the guys we want to, now you owe it to the sport and all that. I always believed he was going to win every single matchup I threw out there. It's like, I just wanted to see it. I wasn't one of these people that like go up to 68 and fight, or like I remember Kevin Elley wrote a story one time. I just couldn't believe it. He's like, Floyd needs to go up and fight Andre Ward at 162. And I'm like, what? Now, have I, written before that I would have loved for how great Floyd was at 47 and 54 to maybe try something at middleweight? If he would have wanted to, he had the skill to try something like that. I would have loved it, but he didn't need to. He fought so many big names and perfectly played the bingo card and filled it all out. So, but you're asking who wins two Changs. All right. That's what you want to know right now. There's certain Floyd's so good that for us to do this exercise of like, who would have beaten him in his welterweight prime, which one of the four kings, all the four kings, what is it? Right. Which isn't even really fair because Hagler was a middleweight, but you get what I'm saying. Like, what would it have looked like prime 47 Floyd against Duran, Leonard, Hearns? There are few though, but they're out there. I'd pick Leonard. I'd pick Hearns. Hearns would be a problem for him. Paul Williams was somebody that's such a particularly tough matchup, I guess, how I perceived it on paper. The Williams that went up through welterweight, like I said, through the Margarito fight, that version of him, can I pick him over Floyd? I can come probably as close as I could without picking him. Like, it's that close. You know what I mean? I do think Leonard and Hearns would have gotten. I wonder too about prime welterweight De La Hoya. I think he might be a problem for Floyd at welterweight. Could Floyd solve both? Floyd always solves the problems, right? So, but that's what greatness is. You want to see it constantly tested and stretched and leveraged and teased and pushed to selfishly, we just want to be around it. We want to have lived it. We want to have been entertained by it. We want to have experienced it. So yes, we ask for outsized expectations and expect things. And often maybe we even deserve it in boxing because of how broken the sport is. And you really don't have any control or promise or guarantee that certain fights will happen, even if they become mandated or whatever, and fight or give up the belt. Hey, some guys will drop that belt in a garbage can, right? But what do we have in boxing? Ridiculousness. And that's why we keep coming back. No, I don't know where I was going there. I just was at any point, I can just lose track of where I am on the show. Lazy Bed says, with that hat and that shirt, if you squint your eyes, BC, kind of looks like a Miami Dolphin. I don't know where we're going with this, Lazy Bed. I really don't. I was hoping for like it was one of those Ace Ventura kicker jokes, right? Why can't I even think of it? Finkel, Einhorn. There you go. All right. I'm losing my steam. Here. A couple more. Okay. Jay supporting the chat. Was Nikolai Valuev any good in your opinion? No. I mean, like, credit to him. 6'9", hairy giant man. Like, he was kind of skilled, like, but I think this is one of those situations where you have to mention that this era of heavyweight boxing that he won a world title in was decrepit, was dead, was empty. That was the Burt Sugar, where are the great American heavyweights? They're all playing linebacker in the NFL era. And I lived it, and it was awful. And we had a lot of Ibrahimovs and Chagayevs, and some of those guys were fun to watch, to be fair. But they ultimately would kind of lay eggs in big fights against Klitschko, and the era sucked. And Valuev snuck in, and he was a draw in Russia. And at 6'9" against not very skilled heavyweight. Let's see, there's a lot of big heavyweights. Not every heavyweight can like really punch though. And Valuev could take a punch at 6'9" and like 300 something pounds. I mean, the dude was massive. But a very undersized David Haye was able to decode him and was seemingly in no issue there. And he had fought John Ruiz. I don't know. Respect, won the belt, he raised it, he got in the ring, he got it done. But it was a kind of a goofy, comical run. And, oh, by the way, when they sanctioned a heavyweight title fight on Christmas Day against 47-year-old Evander Holyfield, or was it 48? I don't remember, but it would have broken George Foreman's record. And I remember that was like the only Christmas I worked at ESPN for a long stretch, because I was the guy in the ESPN days with young kids. So there was always that nice trade-off where I never would have to work at Christmas, but I'd always be working on New Year's Eve. It's that ESPN trade-off you did with the youngins. And the one time I worked on Christmas, it was this fight, and I watched it live at ESPN. And at the end, and I remember thinking, like, I don't even want Evander to win, because he shouldn't be fighting. And this era is so bad that he's in a title fight that shouldn't have been booked. And he actually might win it. And he kind of won the fight. I watched it live. He won the fight, and they didn't give it to him. And maybe that was the best choice for boxing at the moment. But to answer your question, no, Valuev was not very good. He was large and difficult to move around. And that's about it. All right. Anybody else have anything else to say? What do you got here? Thank you guys for being so great and for lingering in this chat as I ramble and linger, and for supporting. A Fifi says, just saying that BCX sounds like a porn nickname. Oh, that's kind of gross. I hope not. I mean, I don't think it does. Well, I guess it kind of does. Yeah. What are you going to get here on BCX? Only pipes? You might. Let's see if the Bills, let's see if we need to, right? I can't believe, to be fair, I can't believe how much money people make on that kind of stuff. The OnlyFans world. I can't believe it. It's wild. With that said, if I was like 21 living in my own third floor apartment, would I be subscribed to all of them? Probably, unfortunately, right? So that's where you got to divert back to the way I was raised. I'm sorry. That's the truth. That's where we're at. Alan W was talking comedy before. Rogan is El Gringo Daddy. His comedy is not that far off from Brendan Schaub. Wow. I don't know his material enough, but what I've attempted to try to watch in Netflix specials to, I guess, try to stay involved in the conversation, I was like alarmingly disappointed at how not good the modern Rogan comedy game shtick was. And maybe it never has. But I don't know. I know I always knew him more as actor, TV host than I did as a comedian. I didn't follow his sort of prime run. I probably knew the most of who he was, obviously Fear Factor, that sitcom he had, then the UFC. But what was the other thing? I forgot. Whatever. I mean, it was probably going somewhere great, but it was something else. But I never thought of him, oddly enough, as a comedian. It was always like, yeah, that TV guy. All right, there we go. BC's falling apart here. About to be last call. Mike, we were like, where's Michael Carson? He's right here. BC should do a watch along for this fight card. I'm in Tampa, but would rather we watch with BC commentary. That's probably hard to do. I know Luke does that. It's probably hard to do solo, right? I mean, I guess I pull it off here talking to myself in circles, but at least I'm prompted with your questions. Could I do a BCX watch along? I guess it's possible. Let me think about it. Let me sleep on it. Baby, right? I mean, I don't care what you say. Does that Meatloaf album kind of bang? Mike Carson again. Thank you, brother. How do we ever get by without those BC live chats? I don't know. How did I get by? I don't know who's benefiting more from this, me or you. I don't know. Maybe we're just hanging out. Maybe we're just friends. All right. I think some people have things to say. 2 Changs, thank you, brother. And thank you for being a big boxing fan. Manny's best call Oh, Emmanuel Stewart, you're saying as an announcer, was Cotto-Margarito one. Dude, that's a great call by you, Two Changs. There were certain fights that you forget that he popped up in those, right? Because they had this kind of open rotation. I mean, there were different parts of those interchangeable eras that were great or had runs. Like early Max with Jim and Larry was great. But Jim and Larry and Prime Emmanuel there, I mean, I'm such a sucker though for Jim, Larry, and Foreman. And it was often because they would argue with each other as well. That was part of why I loved it. And it was also annoying. Jim and Max were not seeing what Manny was seeing, which was Margarito pushing Cotto. Think Margarito cheated that night. Yeah, I personally do believe Margarito cheated that night. I think when you look at Miguel's face, how he imploded. I mean, say what you will, like, dude, Miguel Cotto. I mean, not like anyone's out there with these signs. Miguel Cotto is not a warrior. I mean, who would ever do that? But like that guy was also a damn warrior, right? Like, damn, Miguel Cotto was great. I don't have the man love for the man that Kieran Mulvaney has. Shout out to Kieran Mulvaney. You know, I esteem that unfortunately more at Oscar and Jason Litzau, the American boy. Shout out to that guy too. That guy fell off the cliff. What a fun ride that was. But do I think that Cotto succumbed to more than just the second half pressure of Margarito? Yes, and it sucks because that fight is a great fight. Like that fight would like literally be in my top 5 probably of favorites, but it's like I almost can't let it. It's such a great fight. But if you believe in hindsight that the wraps were loaded, and I think there's evidence there to believe it. And I'm not necessarily talking about the famous iPad pictures, you know, of the wraps, which you can see like there's that one picture of Margarito holding his fist up after the fight that it's a little fishy for sure. But I just also think you just physically watch that fight, you can kind of tell. I mean, that's the creation of the term the Cotto knee, and I don't like that term even though I use it, but it's a disrespectful term, especially if Cotto took the Cotto knee intentionally to buy time when he was getting hammered. I mean, it really is despicable. It's really incredible that I could earlier in this chat be like, this great villain Margaret. I mean, but that's the problem. I love Tony Margarito. I love him, and he. I mean, did he know? He had to know. It sucks. In boxing, dude, we just turn the page in boxing. We really do. Especially if someone's cool as shit like Margarito. But fun fights, fun fighter. Great call, Two Changs. There you go. There it is. Wow. I don't know. Well, Karsten says we hit that. Thank you. All right. I think we got like 2 more here. Nick, thank you. A little BC flowing on the airways over here. And we love you over here, over her. Thoughts? What the hell are you talking about, Nick? Oh, did you fly? Over? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. I get it now. Sorry, I lost myself for a second there. I should wear my reading glasses for this. Thoughts on the Beastie Boys and their rock rap history? Like, they're great. Are they a little overrated at times? I don't know. I want to say yes, but also I've had times where I was hugely into them, and I've had retroactive times where I remember it was like the late 90s when I bought License to Ill and it's not Licensed. No, what am I talking about here? The 2 back to back, their best early stuff. You know, I mean, I'm losing my mind over here. Okay, so License to Ill is the 86 debut. So I'm largely, License to Ill and Paul's Boutique. You know, I had almost a resurrection period in the late 90s of rediscovering that. Also, when Check Your Head came out and they were basically doing almost like alternative rock and funk as well as some form of hip hop at that point. I mean, I was all in and asked for the cassette for my 7th grade birthday. I mean, that was a moment, man. That I was really into them then. I've retroactively flirted at times with them. If you're not in the mood, it can be very gimmick nostalgic, but it's also incredible and was groundbreaking for a lot of ways, not just as an early hip hop act that could cross over so aggressively for obvious reasons, but also because the sampling and it was so geniusly produced. I mean, Paul's Boutique is immaculate in that regard in terms of the craft and attention to detail and merging all of those sounds and samples and all of that. And the fact that they did linger and be able to evolve and stay. I mean, I remember getting a burnt copy of Five Boroughs and being like, I can kind of get behind this. They're pretty damn great. But I haven't always been in the full mood to respect and appreciate that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, for as much as they evolved and changed skin so often and created longevity, did I ever think at any given point that they were all-time great? No. But some of the core, the totality of it, they became all-time great. And sometimes that's longevity and a consistency, but they were also in the very forefront of pop culture, obviously hugely, tied to Russell Simmons and Run DMC and Rick Rubin and all that era of the 80s, but through the lens of what was still left of MTV Video Prime in the mid 90s, especially through the Sabotage and stuff. I mean, they became even hipper and even cooler in that regard. Maybe because they've changed skin so aggressively at times, it's hard to feel like some of it holds up on that same level. But we're splitting hairs. If there's a line between great and not great, they're freaking great. Okay. They're great, Nick. You cornered. You put me in a corner. Nobody puts BC in a corner. All right. That's what we got here. Appreciate the love here on the way out. Michael Beal, thank you for coming in. Card counters quickly process visual inputs, keep high tempo dynamic tallies in real time with dispassionate calls under pressure. Best base for MMA judges. That's a very interesting comparison right there. It would demand everything you just said. You used very nice words but it's obviously, look, there is an attention that you would need. There is a way to separate who could be a great judge from who's not. That doesn't always fully involve like how intensely historically passionate are they as a fan. Like that almost doesn't even matter. And I find that a lot of these judges, like they don't want to get caught up in the storyline of the fight or who's predicting what. They just want to look at it as safely and plainly as like, I got a job to do. I'm judging 12 individual fights in one bout. That's what this is. So you would certainly need somebody though. That Luke says that a lot, and it sounds like some ageism there, but he might be right. I mean, judges being allowed to linger, especially in boxing, so late in age, and it's like, well, they're certainly experienced and know what they're looking for, but there is an attention to detail, to the level of attention that you need that is intense. Card counters, I guess, yeah, certainly could be on that level in terms of if you're looking to breed some or find some. Yeah, I would love to judge fights. That would be awesome. But I also have the same ADHD tendencies of just jumping from one interest to another and never really going for it. Do I want to go for that? Do I want to get on the amateurs and do that? No, I don't know if I want to do that, but I like calling fights. That's what I like. Alan says Prime Louis Restover is just, yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Okay. That's what we're talking about, right? Margarito. Dude, Margarito at times was great. And great at being a bully. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like Prime 154 Jarrett Swift Hurd, who was getting Margarito comparisons at times. Just take what you're given, but just keep pushing. Had enough skills, could box when he absolutely had to, for sure, but the hooks to the body, the meanness, I'm going to take him. There you go. I mean, that's the interesting question when you're bringing Pernell Whitaker back into these conversations, because it's like, it's one thing to compare Floyd to the 80s giants, but what about Pernell in there? I don't know what Pernell versus Floyd would actually ultimately look like. It would be such, in my opinion, a slowed down chess match of brilliant bursts. But to try to assign and figure out exactly who would take the lead and what that would look like, I'm not really sure. I always felt like I would favor Floyd in that matchup slightly, but it's so close. It really is. Now, Duran is interesting and different. I mean, we kind of can we compare what we saw the limitations Chavez had against Whitaker to maybe what I don't know. Duran's different though. Duran was different than Chavez Sr. It's like Duran is such a wild card. You know, even in the Duran versus Floyd debate, where you're like, yeah, Floyd can get that though, out of all those guys. But also Duran had that wild card. I mean, look at the Sugar Ray Leonard fight one. It was that wild card, the mental game, the intangibles. And sometimes the intangible was just his badassery and the chin and the swagger. But damn. Duran versus Floyd at 135. Dude, I mean, Duran might be the greatest lightweight of all time. That's an animal at lightweight against Floyd. Floyd was more offensive in those days, but you're going to meet Duran head on. It's hard to pick anybody above lightweight Duran. Just like it's hard to pick any middleweight or any super middleweight in the history of this sport in a mental mythical matchup against Roy Jones Jr. Try it. I mean, just try it. You know, light heavyweight, you can talk yourself into more guys. Not in those other two divisions. All right. That's what I got. Okay. Arturo still here. This guy. I got you, BC. If you need anything co-hosting for a fight watch along, we met at the MK live show in the UK. Yeah, dude. All right. You know what? I'm not doing a bit. Arturo, I remember you because I definitely made an Arturo Gotti reference once you said you're from Mexico, and I remember being like, Mexico, man, what are you doing here? So we've done a lot of those meet up there. Actually, maybe we've done a few times, three times. And like I always say, they're delightful and they're long and they're enduring and sometimes weird. And then sometimes some dude will just be like, hey, I made these for you, grab one. And it could change your life, right? But the UK, just the nicest freaking people. Thank you, Arturo, for being you. So many of them too. That one guy that gave me that copy of the King Crimson Red album, dude, read by King Crimson, kicks so much ass. It's ridiculous. That's a homework assignment. Okay. What's that one song? One More Red Nightmare is one of the coolest, incredible, weirdest prog rock classics that I've ever heard off of that King Crimson album called Red. Yeah, I got that album in that line because you guys are so great. All right. All right. Two Changs has an opinion here. Thank you again. I think Purnell frustrates Duran like Sugar Ray did. Could clown him into a no mas if anyone else could. Great point. Great point. Purnell, though, not as offensively dangerous, though, as Sugar Ray Leonard. But would that. But then again, that's exactly what Sugar Ray did to him. I mean, Sugar Ray stunted on him in that rematch. You hate to know in hindsight, though, which is the truth, that Duran went out and got fat and partied, and we know the story of Leonard trying to force the rematch as immediately as possible, trying to catch him, in that situation where he's got to spend the whole training camp trying to get in shape, and it was a part of it for sure. But Prime versus Prime, that dog in Duran, it's a wild card situation in all of these. That's why we can sit by the fire. Cigars are optional, whatever you're into, okay? And debate this. I mean, is there anything better than cracking an incredible IPA, sitting by the fire? I've never done this because I don't really know boxing fans in real life. I guess that's why we're hanging out here in this here BCX tavern. But and talking, always feel like there's no problem in life that can't be solved over an open fire. So we should put that on a postcard, right? That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I don't know. All right. We're taking this home. Alan, thank you. Thank you. Heavyweight boxing is a blindside when it comes to prospects. Is there an heir apparent right now coming up? Dubois and Martin are not it. No, that's the interesting thing. I don't think I've seen it yet. You know, Jared Big Baby Anderson used to hold that crown, obviously from an American sense of like, okay, who's the next guy from America? And to his credit, it still might be him, even if that timing of that Bacoli knockout came at a point when it didn't, he shouldn't have, Top Rank wouldn't have said yes under any other circumstance, right? It was Jared who supposedly, according to Bob Arum, Jared's team negotiated that fight with Turkey directly, which apparently led to some issue internally there. But I don't know who it is. You know, it's like you see Top Rank's got the Richard Torres guy from the Olympics, and he's coming up, but he's still fighting fat white guys. To be very fair, I mean, he still is. I'm not sure what we have with him yet. I don't know if I've seen it in any of these foreign heavyweights yet. Somebody that I can anoint as next. It's still even though the characters are aging rapidly, luckily heavyweight supports that, unlike any, more than any other division. But it's still about right now at heavyweight. It is. It's fun to add Bacoli now because of that Jared Anderson fight as another player. And some other players linger and make a run. Joseph Parker right now is a player again. Zhilei Zhang, I never thought would be a player, and he's kind of a player now. So it is still about what's right now. And Deontay Wilder is out here saying that he's still a player and he's going to make another comeback, and we'll see. I don't know how that's going to go. The only thing I want to say on that, is there a chance that he was not in the right shape in any form, mentally or physically, but the Turkey offer was so much that maybe he just said yes to that and figured he can find it and resurrect it. And then after the first loss, think that's fine. I'll come right back. And I mean, it's not there anymore. And I think he's the last to know. So, I don't want him to linger, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. You guys have been incredible. We're going to close it down. All right. We're going to do it. Appreciate you. Oh, I saw this guy slide in. Thank you, that guy, for always getting my back too. How much would it cost for you and Rafe to do a in-person Inside the Box episode or big fight watch along? I'm sure Boxeo pals are happy to donate. That's an interesting question, for some of the frustrations of MK coming back, but not coming back to full strength yet. And the hangover of the post CBS Showtime era, as we're building back up, it's still not at a point. I mean, I think we're going to do some things I know we will in 2025. There's already talks. We're going to be back outside again on the road for big events. How many, I'm not sure, but the whole idea of having a better handle on how much can this cost, can we pull it off? We definitely want to try to get more aggressive and do stuff like that. Now, would Rafe and I do it on a BCX spinoff Inside the Box? I'm not sure. I mean, it'd be cool if we can align something where everybody was around, but Rafe's also up in Detroit, so we'll see. We'll see. But if I get an opportunity to do something like this, I'd be down for it. Definitely. I mean, the live show aspect is great. It's the best. What have I said so far? The best jobs in this game are calling fights and hosting those live interview specials. Hosting a live show's got to be maybe number 2. Because it's the closest you're going to come to being a real comedian or being a real whatever, when you've got that crowd to play off of and they're here because they want to be. And in London, they want it to be. So shout out to those guys. And in Vegas, they want it to be, right? Like, we've seen some passionate crowds and we appreciate that. But you do have to have the right setup, the right people, and and have the ability to get great guests too. So if you can do it in a big fight weekend where everyone's there, that's obviously ideal. But I don't think we're done doing that, is what I'm trying to say. Would Luke and me like to do an MK from Mar-a-Lago? Yeah. I mean, it would be kind of hilarious. I always wanted to do one from the Jan 6 steps with Luke, but he said there would be issues with filming there. But that's hilarious. Well done, JP. There we go. That's it. I'm sorry if we didn't make it in. I kept this bar open a lot longer because I had the freedom in my schedule. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we got to everybody. If not, we're going to be back at it next Wednesday. right before the holidays kick in there. So join me next Wednesday here, 4 p.m. Eastern, for the BCX Campbell's Rambles, whatever the heck we're calling it these days. And thank you for supporting me and everything what we got going on in the MK Larger extended family, and really each other and even yourselves. Okay, take care of yourselves. It can be a long December, but I think there's reason to believe that, maybe this year will be better than the last, right? So that's what I'm talking about, right? All right, so get up, let's go, let's go. Check out my top 5 yacht rock albums video. And let me hear from you guys if I missed any on there, or any that you want to talk. I know I saw Long Island looks like, yo, I'm gonna put on Asia again by Steely Dan and live that yacht life. Dude, that I'm telling you, you got to pair it with a documentary. Watch the Yacht Rock documentary. It puts a shine on that genre in ways I never thought it could. It's very funny and honest, and a very, very well done. That's it. I'm out of here. Check us out. MK Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you to Mikey. Thank you to everybody. Slow but steady. Carry a big stick, something like that. I think that's all the advice I got for you. We're out. It's it. That's it.